On today's episode of Let's Talk FGO, it's a Christmas miracle. Lostbelt 7 is happening. And also, JP keeps giving me rank ups I gotta keep writing about. How did I get away with this? Hello, I am one of your hosts. Sorry, I almost made a, rumble down under joke. That doesn't work. We're not going to Australia. Perhaps I am the rumble in the jungle. And with me, as always, the king under the mountain, Lucky.
I hope everyone is enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka Big Problem for Little Chaldea. And while we here at Studio Manga like to bring you the latest Snapchat-related news and memes, we will be talking about current and future events for the JP and the version of the game, so anyone not wanting spoilers should get ready for the beginning of the end.
Yes, and I will correctly remember that I usually, when we're doing pregame episodes, because we will be doing Phase 2 of Lostbelt 7 pregame later on in this episode,
Stay tuned.
I will double spoiler warning everybody of, we always say the spoiler warning. It's part of our charm, it's part of our routine. You always know when you get here, Lucky's going to say the thing.
Mm-hmm.
He has 2 new jokes every week, right at the front.
How do I do it every week?
But, yeah, it's hard. I have a second thought about the intro in a second. But I like to reiterate that, yes, the definitely some real probable spoilers. As usual, I will avoid, names and hard hitters. But if you do want to go in perfectly blind, there is going to be a pull-out point. There's going to be a cutoff, and we'll be sure to see you later. What I was going to say about the intro was, I probably would have had a tighter intro, and may even have remembered because Lucky talked about, big problems, Little Chaldea. I could have spun that into a Big Trouble Little China joke, something about the pillars of heaven shaking. Asks, have you paid your dues? The check is in the mail. Watch Big Trouble Little China if you ever haven't. But we were just jawing about Secret Level for 30 minutes, so
yeah, hopefully we can if you're interested, we'll ratchet back around in our What's Up topic after all the FGO news, so stay tuned for that if you want to hear that.
Pack that one and bring it back. But before we get into all of our other regular business, as usual, I'd like to thank you all for watching, for subscribing, for possibly supporting us on Patreon, or our YouTube memberships. Both are cool. And we'll circle back around to a delightfully hidden, surprising Patreon shout-out later. Yes, we've recorded at least 2 minutes of audio.
Hello.
I know YouTube says, something like 30 seconds, but you can't be too cautious these days. That means it's time to check my favorite kohai, Bash.
Senpai, 起きてください.
Because it is time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai, a regular set for pro tips. So, first, I have a slight correction from last week. We did pregame part 1 for Lostbelt 7. I said that you could still use command spells to revive. That is technically incorrect. I misread the wiki. It says that it's leyline stones or saint quartz to revive. So make sure you are collecting those leyline stones.
You're gonna need them, I feel.
Yeah, I can approximate for you. You're gonna have about 20 more acts worth of fights for me to talk about later, and definitely some of these are just they're gonna be trial and error, baby. But as I did joke at the beginning of the show, we also have confirmed LB7 is going to drop Christmas, the 25th. Technically, for some time zones, that'll actually be still be Christmas Eve, but it will be that night. There should not be any new servant banners, but I'm sure there'll be a big heap and help and infusion of Saint Quartz for y'all. So, adjust to your server times accordingly. I feel like it's been a while since we had a really congested FGO drop, but it can still happen. But for the time being, no records, no evils. I should actually say, slight evil. I did, 3 10 spins for Oberon and didn't get anything, but that's... The Mothman continues to dodge me, the man moth. I think I got, NP5 Medusiana, Lancer Medusa. That was it. Oh. No other 5 stars. We're just chilling.
Living our best life.
Time to just put all my remaining quartz in a pile for the new year. But that means it's time to talk about, did you finish your master missions? To finish your master missions this week, to get a couple more of those delicious Saint Quartzes, and also just in general, I think they want you to, do 3 quests or something. You're going to need to defeat 5 servants, defeat 10 servants, 15 each of beast and demonic trait enemies, and then get 2 skill gems or statues, and then 4 skill gems or statues as drops, all of that. So, perfectly normal week. Do some stuff, please. I'm fairly certain that we have a true gap week before the Lostbelt drops, because the rerun has ended. They are just running the support campaign and rerun banner we'll talk about in a second. This is your clear strike zone to make sure that you've got Trom cleaned up, make sure that you've got the Tunguska epilogue cleaned up, and you're ready to rock.
Get to it.
But that means we can move into Scalagram. Skellograms, which will be, this week, fairly brief. And actually, I should say, Skellograms is also usually when we do our business talk. I should be saying as well that I believe that this show, if I understand how calendars work, should be possibly the last Let's Talk FGO of the year.
We still have the 27th.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Because I usually talk. My family does a family get together usually sometime after Christmas, before New Year's. This year it is going to be on the 27th, and it is going to be a family brunch. So I will not exist by the time we get to our usual recording time, I'm sure. As you know, Chad, I am a habitual night owl. I'm a up late stayer and a late waker upper. So having to be ready to roll out for even 10 a.m. brunch, which means having to get up and get ready beforehand, I'm going to be probably super blasted. We may try to run something on the Saturday, or we may just, freeball it and take a weekend off for the holidays.
I'm a fan of the latter.
Yeah. So this is probably our last block show. As such, I have made sure to schedule Fanservice Friday to appear later. Please do not let me forget it, live chat, because otherwise it'll be super late. Funny enough, other plans have blocked it out, so we are sadly not going to record Rain this weekend, but it does mean that my birthday, the 29th, is free, so we will record Rain then. Rain, episode 27, out now. I made it alliterative. It's dinners and duels. I wish I had a third D, but I couldn't think of one in time.
Demons.
Oh, I could do that. That doesn't have quite the same quite the same cadence as what is it? Diners and drive-ins and dives.
Yeah, demons, dinners, and duels.
Yeah, if we do demons first, I'll fix that later. I also like using multiple ampersands in the same title. But that's your news update. Let's catch you up with the FGO news. First of all, Christmas 2024 and JP Summon Campaign number 3, starting the 15th, going until the 22nd. It's Renes and Woo.
Woo.
Also, as I joked about in the intro segment, they keep adding up rank ups behind my back. This is like the 4th and 5th, or like 3rd and 4th rank up they've added in Christmas, and they're just slowly dishing them out, not even doing them all at once. But first of all, one for Yang Guifei. So her Living Flame skill is now just 3 turns, no longer 3 hits, 3 turns.
Oh.
She just burns and defense downs for 3 whole turns. It is also now a 20-30% battery and a 20-30% arts up for 3 turns. This is a pretty good buff. This is really going to make her niche much easier to hit because you just keep giving her taunts and her skill works. And also it's a battery and an arts infusion. So just really keeps the kit much more consistently. Also, I believe somebody also talks about this in Mailbag, but Dion got a buff out of nowhere at the tail end of 2024. So the self-suggestion, which is remove buffs and give like 100% debuff resistance, that is now a 10-20% party-wide arts up for 3 turns, and now a party-wide 3-turn 50-100% buff removal resist, all on a skill that keeps its 5-turn cooldown. This is probably the best buff removal resist skill in the game now, as it is, as I said, a 100% for 3 turns with a 5-turn, maxed out cooldown. If you are managing skills to reset cooldowns, possibly if you're in some sort of arts team comp with some sort of Tamamo, you may be able to get this to run forever and literally be buff unremovable. Even so, it's like I said, it's a because it still does gives Dion huge debuff resist and removes all their debuffs, but also now you've got these party-wide effects which are pretty slick. So yeah, getting some powerful buffs. This goes to a conversation we've had a couple of times on air, and I think I've had recently talking about, people wanting to get into FGO of like, FGO demands a lot if you want to be pretty hardcore and you want to make sure you're hitting like CQs and 90++ and stuff nodes. But the game is very approachable if you just want to play it and roll for the sake of rolling, because they do this shit where like, nobody was, I think, calling for Dion to get a buff, but we're here. Crazy good buff. Same with the one Phantom just got. Like, it may take a while, but these lower rarity, more common units keep getting better and better as time goes on, and they buff out the edges. And obviously, if you get into the game later, you can catch up on a lot of these. All right. Scratch my nose. The only thing we do have going on in NA is The 2024 Christmas Revival Pickup Summon started the 17th. It's going to end on Christmas Day. It's got a Scotty and a Nightingale banner, plus some previous year's Christmas CEs. Happy fun Christmas time. And we have confirmed that Caldea Broadcasting Station US branch number 20 will be airing on the 24th. I kind of hope for their sakes this is pre-recorded.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Because remember, they've already got the guest list. Let me actually go pull it up to be sure. But because Japan is in the future, unless we've secretly piped in Ayako Kawasumi again to America, so she's in the past, that's going to be Christmas Day. So yeah, let's see. Number 20, it's going to be hosted by Albert, of course, and our guests are going to be Ayaka Kawasumi, Minami Tanaka, and Makoto Anjo, who is the art director, I believe.
Oh, neat.
Going to be the first time appearing on one of these. But you see a lot of Makoto-san's comments on the Caldea break room and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a neat little factor. But yeah, so like I said, I hope for the sake of the panel of guests that it's pre-recorded. But gonna be a fun time. This will be, all the announcements for all of the things you need to know. It may mean we get a time frame for when they're planning on dropping the second and third bits.
That would be important to know, yes.
Because obviously in JP, this was like a really high impact time where the release dates were very unclear, and obviously some of them were quite delayed. Hopefully we should be picking up the pace because, as people were talking about earlier, in order for GSSR stuff to work, that means we have to do the event with Medusa Saber in June, or get it started sometime in June, so it can have at least the banner can have existed before the GSSR hits. So yeah, we don't have a lot of wiggly room to have it take an extra month to get Lostbelt 7 out the door. But yes, keep
what was
that
our
all
delay
in mind.
on? What was our delay on Lostbelt 6? Did we?
It was a month each time in JP. I think we shortened that down to 2 or 3 weeks in NA for the first to second part, and then the third part was about a month, about 4 weeks, because it had to be after anniversary. It was definitely shorter.
Yeah, then they'll probably scrunkle things down.
Let me see. Let me pull up my handy dandy computer calendar. So yeah, the 25th is a Wednesday. The first, obviously, 1 week after is going to be all our New Year's shit. So we probably don't want to stack our banners up too tight. But I could see them going maybe on the second part on the 15th of January, a couple weeks in.
Yeah, but I'm gonna assume that we're probably gonna try and do it in 2 week increments.
Yeah. Get all those lovely bits and bobs out of there. And then the only other thing I think I have that's in the news type zone is that Fate Stay Night actually got nominated for a Steam Award.
Best soundtrack, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, for best soundtrack.
Yeah.
I believe these are, as with several other types of awards, mostly voted on by the gaming public, so feel free to fire on by if you think that's pretty cool. It's a pretty good sale. I do also believe that they've announced that the Fate Stay Night remastered totally has sold 100,000 copies worldwide.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, not as crazy good as Mahayo, but obviously the Fate Stay Night has been trickled out other places worldwide in other formats, whereas our the Mahayo remaster and then the Tsugihime remake were
hot and
much
fresh.
Yeah, much relatively newer, harder to access. So yeah, but still doing very good for themselves.
I think in some areas you can get Fate Stay Night on your phone, if I remember correctly.
I believe that they do have a port that is on Google Play and iOS in Japan. Yes, I think the way it works is the Fate route is free, and then you got to buy the other two routes, which is a very funny way of doing it. But that is about as certain as this.
So, with that, it is time for this week's Let's Talk FGO Mailbag, the segment where we read what you have to say and comment accordingly. Let me just pull it up here, and we will see how many we got. One last refresh, and it's 6. We have 6 lovely submissions, and we'll get through them all right now. And our first one comes from Monster Girl Aficionado, who says, "Dear Lucky Omega, no question this week, just sending good vibes and wishing you well. Wah, 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 wah. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Glad to see you here every week on the week." This next one is a bit of a text wall, so bear with me. So, this next one comes from the 100-hour man who saved up 1,356 sync quartz for a seal, and then thought he needed Oberon and ended up getting him through pity.
Please place your 07s in the comments below.
Yes. I thought we had a oof sound, but we don't, so I'll give you this.
Oh no.
I should probably find some sort of oof. Dear Lucky and Omega, F me. So yeah, right after posting last week, thinking about how proud I was to saving up so much sync quartz, I decided I needed Oberon since it's basically impossible to try to do any 90 double plus nodes in 3 turns without him, and I ended up getting Oberon through pity. Thankfully, getting caught up with story chapters has got me into a position where I'm building up my stockpile again, but this still hurts. I have 2 lovely questions for y'all this week. The first, am I the only one that hates Oberon's kit and fate? Not having him, I found that doing 90 double plus nodes basically impossible in a timely fashion. And anytime I look up guides for help on how to do it, it's basically every single guide for the nodes includes the same template of damage dealer, double support, plug in Oberon. It just feels like a lot of high-level game access isn't really obtainable unless you have them. Am I in the wrong here? Let's put a pin in that. He has part 2. My second, significantly more positive, question for you this week is, do you either have any predictions on the New Year's Servant this year? Personally, I think it's going to be Saber from Fate Strange Fake. Not saying his name for spoilers, or Galahad. Hopefully it's the latter. I can't think of many other servants that it can be besides those that will probably be coming out at the 10th Annie event. Excuse me. Your thoughts? Merry Christmas and hope you all are having a better time than I am. So, I definitely have thoughts on this first half here. Lucky is almost somewhat notorious in our own little thing that I refuse to run double support setups. Double servant setups. You know, having 2 Castorias or 2 whatevers. I refuse. I absolutely refuse. Because there is definitely something like, there's a joke about, you know, meta usages, meta being an acronym for most effective tactic available. And that's what basically this a lot boils down to. People basically want the simple and quickest way to do 3-turn farming. And, you know, to be fair to them, that's completely fair. Some people just want to blitz through the fight, not have to waste too much time, and be able to get through their, like, ridiculous amounts of farming in the quickest time possible. So, I'm gonna let you on a little secret. It's like, it's very little known, but I'm gonna let you in on that. You don't have to be that person. You really don't. Generally, while the 90 double plus nodes are usually the quote unquote best nodes, usually you can find a more traditional 3-turn setup on the 90 plus nodes, and you usually get almost as good drops. Almost. Not quite as good ever, but they're pretty up there. Usually that is what I do. I don't do 90, I clear out the 90 double plus just to say I fucking did it, and then I'm like, nope, I'm going down to the 90 plus for my regular ass 3 turns, and I'm good. Like, fun fact, I have a level 90, 10, 10, 10 Oberon, I never fucking use them. Because I don't want to have to activate my brain of doing a plug suit to add on that double shit, and I'm still not entirely how it works. That's my fault, though. Lucky's dumb sometimes, so, nah. So yes, I probably could do it, but, again, is that really fun to me? No. Like, in this game, the first thing that you should be worried about is doing something actually fun for you. And for a lot of people who want to treat this more like a fucking math problem that they could just crunch numbers and solve it with, sure, that might be fun to them. Or they just might not have enough time to take their time with it. I don't know. Whatever works for them. All I know is that they need to get these things done, and they will. You don't necessarily have to do it the same way. You can set up 4-turn clears, 5-turn clears. It's like, that is okay. It is fine. Like I said, people I do, like, this is one of the things I think about. I think people put too much, focus on the 3-turn clear. Like, if you're not doing the 3-turn clear, like, how are you living your life? Like, no. Disregard that. Play in a way that you feel comfortable, is in fun, and does not cause you a massive headache. Like I said, that's me with my, refusal to use, friend supports, because, well, I can pretty much guarantee that because just how meta works, I can probably find someone with a 10-10-10 of the servant that I need. That is also screams false to me, because then I am relying on someone else's power, and what if just, for whatever reason, that doesn't exist anymore? What will I do? Listen to the people screaming and howling when they're literally not allowed to use, they'll use duplicate servants, and they don't know what to do with their life anymore.
A specific
It's
type
hilarious.
of challenge content, yes.
Yeah. It's hilarious every time.
Yeah, we've been doing this show a long time. In case you're newer here, Lucky and I started the earliest form of the podcast, episode 1. I don't know what, like a couple weeks after they launched FGO. So we've been in this a long time, and the chase for the 3-turn has been a part of the conversation for a long, long time. And I do think that the conversation, like, the players change, the play stays the same, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout FGO's years, players have been attempting to figure out the way to do content with, basically the shortest amount of lead time. They don't care if you have to fucking plug suit and you have to press, 12 skill buttons or 15 skill buttons if you're, order swapping and stuff in one turn, so long as they just start pushing NP button and the amount of turns it takes is less. Genuinely, I think some 3-turn setups, take more brain power and more input time on the user than just if you took 5 turns and maybe, brain deaded it a little. Genuinely, I do think some versions of the quote-unquote optimal, 90++ strategies, like Lucky said, those are not actually brain-dead strats. They require a lot of extra thinking. But the 3-turn started as a brain-dead strat. Get Merlin, push all buttons, Buster, clear.
Double Scotty loop, go.
Yeah, and then it became double
I
Scotty
will say
loop.
the double Scotty loop is when we got our absolute worst about it, though.
Yes, the FGO started with, you gotta save for Merlin, then you gotta save for Jolter. Back when their damage break bars didn't exist, so just max deeps was the biggest nuke possible, was the best,
Mm-hmm. Deep snacksin'.
Yeah. And then the game developers developed systems to make it so you couldn't do that, and then it was like, okay, so now looping is our most optimal strat. And then that was, the Scotty loop. You need that servant that's just perfect. Yes, sorry. One of our patrons just posted the original OG 3-turn strat, 3 MLBK scope. Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, Lucky still does that. Because that is truly the smooth brain, because you just, I have 3 AoE NPs and 3 guys with maxed K-scopes. Who cares?
We fire and forget, baby!
Yeah, and then obviously Castoria went okay, so what if now Arts could loop, Scotty quick loops, etc., 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 and it just keeps going. And, now then they did Koyanskaya for, now Buster can reload, can, rejuice its NP bar like a loop, even though it doesn't do NP gain. And then if you get Oberon in there, you can DPS max because he just, amps up your damage on the last wave so much. But if you fuck up... I still don't have an Oberon, so I can't do Oberon single or double strats. Well, I guess I could try singles if I could import one, but then that usually fucks up some other part of the combo. Picking ideal friend supports is sometimes difficult depending on what your own pulls are. That I will say is, the double Scotty or double Castoria is a lot easier than some of the other shit you can do. But definitely, if you fuck up doing your Oberon correctly, you're in a bad way because your DPSer is perma-sleeped after. You have to do it carefully and make sure the fight is over after you apply the big damage, because otherwise you're scronkled. So, to answer, the ultimate question of, I don't really, hate, Oberon's kit style. There will always be another powerful booster. The fact that he, maxes out that NP damage in a way is very specific. Usually there's a couple of different comps that don't call for him, but they want you to hit also multiple NP levels for the damage maxing. Another good way you can do that is to consider investing in Grails. Obviously that probably wants multiple copies or going deep in the bond level, but if you can get a servant push to 100, and then God forbid you can push to 110 or 120, the extra stats are a huge stonks as well. But there always are going to be somebody in supporters, and the funny thing is that despite the fact that many people who play FGO they complained about no pity for the longest time, they bitch about the pull rates, so many limited SSRs every year. Hey, guess what, chat? Nothing happened to Scotty. You can still run double Scotty. Yes, now you can run triple Scotties because you can mix in the summer version as well. But servants don't get nerfed in FGO typically. I think there have been a couple of technical downgrades because there were bugs, but usually servants in FGO only get stronger. nothing happened to Double Scotty. Nothing happened to Double Castoria. Hell, nothing happened to Double Merlin comps either. It's just that became less optimal because the nature of the game changed, where, needing endurance overturns versus just hitting one buster one big time. Even though, by the way, Merlin's great at that too. The guy has a team-wide invul. He's always been really strong at endurance as well. But, nothing happened to your old servants. So despite the fact that, every time a new really strong servant, like a new limited SSR comes out, usually either for a big story drop or an anniversary or a New Year's or whatever, and everybody's like, oh, this is gonna revolutionize the meta. Again, despite the fact that people complain about, must roll, SSRs and shit, you don't actually have to do that.
Yeah.
To this day, people still run the OG Heracles with Bond CE. That's still, if he's your anchor slot, he's last man of the row, you're still fucking unkillable for 5 turns if you've done all his all his strength things. That's still good. So yeah, I completely understand, dear correspondent, your frustration with the FGO meta. I do think, and we have at times have talked about how just insane people have gotten since the you gotta save for Jalter days. But as Lucky said, you don't have to do that. It's I don't want to say it's all one big lie, even though that's probably a funnier sound clip for me to say. But a lot of it's in people's heads. If you are clearing content at a number of turns you find reasonable, go for it. Much like Lucky, I also concur. I usually, at best, run the 90++ once just to get the rewards and say I did it, and then I will farm the lower down one if I can reasonably 3-turn that with my own setups or not. And, you work with whatever you got, because that's honestly how FGO be sometimes. You go to war with the servants you have, not the servants you want, which you could say a lot of things in Fate. So yes, there have been, this is not a new discussion, and your feelings are totally valid, because I have seen this loop many times.
Oh yeah.
I want to do the fucking Matrix copy pasta of the Architect, This is the 7th iteration of the cycle. Honestly, that's probably about right, because we're on what? This was the 7th year for NA, right? So yeah. We're probably about the 7th time this has happened. Luckily, Rasputin's gimmick is just about being personally fucking unkillable, so he doesn't actually change the 3-turn farming meta. But the man is going to be indestructible, so keep that in mind if you're doing CQs.
As for your second part here, I think we have talked on the first part enough. I do believe that is a reasonable guess. Like I said, last year we had the goodest Saber. Don't want to necessarily say boy. I think they are still gender ambiguous. Yamato Takeru, which led into our Remnant collab. I do not think that we'll probably be doing a Strange Fake collabs quite so early. The fact that we got the Samurai Remnant collab in January, I think blew a lot of people's minds. A lot of people.
Honestly, it blew the minds of several developers, both from Koei Tecmo and from Lasengle, I think. I don't think anybody really planned on it being that soon. It just kind of happened that way.
But, yeah, no, because it only came out, the year before in, late summer?
It was about 3 or 4 months between when Samurai Remnant hit and when the collab happened.
Yeah.
It was crazy soon.
So, I do think that probably Saber would be a fair pick for the Anniversary Servant. Or they could come up with something completely wild. They might. Like I said, we had a high profile Saber last year. Usually we kind of switch back and forth.
Yeah, I think the most common class at New Year's at this point, other than Saber, is Alter Ego.
No, I think it's Foreigner. Wait, no.
Actually, no, you're right. It might be Foreigner now, but it's one of the 2 extras like that.
But yeah, because we've gotten Musashi, Muramasa, Brain, Yamato. Was there a 4th Saber we got? I don't think so.
Is there a Saber? I don't remember.
Wait, was Benny Enma a New Year's servant?
Yes.
Or was that for the New Year's event?
Benny Enma was. Actually, no, that was technically did the event... Actually, the event, I think, may have been framed as a... Yeah, I'm about to say, somebody in chat saying, I think it was both. It was we had an event at New Year's that was also when Benny Enma dropped.
Yeah, so we've had 4 Sabers for New Year's. So I don't think it's necessarily. Yeah, and this will be. Isn't this like the 8th year, or is this the 9th year?
This should be the 8th new year because this is the 8th overall. We're going into the 9th year of FGO.
Who was our first New Year's servant?
That's what I'm trying to remember. Because it wasn't Tama. That was Halloween. It wasn't.
Was it Karna?
Yeah, was it? Was it Karna and Arjuna?
I remember it was around that time.
Yeah, I think it was the two of them.
Yeah. So Wild Time. That's something that hasn't repeated. We haven't got a double feature like that in a while. But
also, just a very funny. The nature of OG FGO events. I just rattled off talking about like remembering like Halloween, Christmas, and then New Year's. That's like 4 permanent servants because FGO was so starved for units back then that they would do limited drops of new permanents fairly frequently and then bring them back in like way later. Like I think Tomba was like limited until London came out.
Yeah, she showed up for Halloween and then was limited. She was limited at Halloween and then showed up after London.
Yeah.
Like it remembers this.
And I think Jack was the same way. She showed up early for Christmas and then was permanently added with London as well. So yeah, like FGO's come a long way in a lot of these. Yeah, there's Musashi, and we got Hokusai and Young as foreigners, and then Rasputin as alter ego coming up. It's a wide collection.
So I think this is like, while I do think it has a good guess with coming up, honestly, the more I think about it, we are probably not getting a Saber this year. If we are getting Saber, it might be for the Strange Fate collab, which is probably, I'm like 70% sure that's what's going to be happening this year.
Yeah, I feel like that one's basically locked in. Like, I think a Strange Fate character could be a good pull because they are going to re-show episode 1 as the Fate TV special.
Mm-hmm. Hell, they might pull out another a Strange Fate character. I don't know.
That's right. Koyan of Dark was our third foreigner. I was like, I know there was a third.
Okay, then maybe Foreigner. Yeah, because Foreigner is our second most.
Yeah, but we've had a decent spread. I mean, we could invent some new foreigners, or dig out some old characters. But that's one of those things that I'm not gonna think too hard about. We will find out before too long.
Yeah. So, with that, let us move swiftly on. This next one comes from the Tyrant King, who managed to get done about half of their Christmas shopping. Well, good luck with the rest of it. Boy, howdy. Question. Hey, guys. Saw a question about what's your favorite FGO OST track on Reddit, so I'll ask the same question. What is the track from FGO that makes you want to burn your soul's fire? Also, another question. Favorite holiday song? Anyway, that's it from it. Sending good vibes your way. Wah, 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 wah. Hope you have a great evening, and Merry Christmas. Favorite?
God, FGO has such a good OST.
I can't remember the name of it.
Which one? What place are you thinking of?
The LB6 map team when everything's gone to shit.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple of those. Was that Pilgrimage or Calamity? They have some different names. Because I've talked about this before. There's actually, like, 2 versions of the second map theme, for instance. But, yeah, no. The soundtrack is uploaded, so I could find the track list. But, yeah, no, I know the one you're thinking of.
Yeah. That one lives in my head fucking forever. Anytime I'm thinking about something dramatic, that just pops into my head.
No, that's a really good one. Like, I have actually, I was still sick at the front after the week, so I've not gotten very far, but we're starting the process of working on the next Lostbelt 6 best of. So, yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Lostbelt 6 tracks to pick out what to do for my, musical interludes to break up around the edits, and there's so many, like, really strong ones. They're all, like, real good. I don't know what it is, but, like, it was such a moment, but the like very final boss theme, Oberon's theme, is like, which is titled The End, is also just like very striking to me because it's got kind of like this like melancholic or wistful quality while also still being really hype. I remember the gif of like the opening bit playing to a little animated Oberon like breakdancing. Like, yeah, it's just so much of like, yeah, that's just real good. But there's so many great zingers. Like, you have all the strong, grand battle themes. Collapse, right? Yeah, I think that's the correct one. I'm like, it's like Ruiner there. That's the third phase theme. It's technically like the 4th version of the map theme, but it's the one from the final segment when shit gets crazy. But like, there's so many good ones. I love that there are musical callbacks in LB6. For instance, despite the fact that you only fight her a couple of times, Chanlin Tristan has a boss theme specifically that ends up remixed into Big Fluffy's theme. Though Big Kununos has like a lot more church bells in his setup. But yeah, there's lots of really good ones, and just the variety of music, like the fact that we can like go from like, you know, orchestral pieces with like a lot of like specifically a lot of LB6 stuff, and especially Oberon had a lot of violins in it. And then like, how many people when you were playing FGO and you first heard True Human Chin-Chi Wong's theme and you're just like, whoa,
Oh yeah,
what is this soundtrack? Like, it's just so...
Just the fucking...
Yeah, it's just so technological. Or the way that, like, the very techno theme that plays when you fight the machine gods in Atlantis and Olympus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, good stuff. Very, very strong stuff. But yeah, I think out of the most recent ones, Oberon is the one that gets me the most, of just, like, yeah. They were so right to make that the theme that plays when his NP fires, even if I don't have a copy. It's the careful art of how FF14 selects trial mount themes. You got to do the correct phase.
Oh yeah. Personal favorites from mine besides that one, Nine Drive, Command Sky, A Strange Record, another favorite one.
I love when we do a soundtrack piece that remixes other soundtrack pieces.
No, I love it. FGO versions of Day of Wrath from LB1. It's just Day of Wrath, but they introduced the FGO leitmotif into it. I'm just like, yes, every time. Also, Venus Racer from fucking Summer 2 lives in my head a lot. Dun 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 dun. I'm like, yeah.
It's a very good one. Speaking of event themes, it's an FGO arrangement, but just the multiple movements of Spinal Coaster are like,
oh yeah,
carved into my memory. I think it's 2 is the one, maybe it's 3 that plays during like Melt's big moment.
I don't know where it is. It has to probably be on CCC's original track or something. But the map theme for Seraph, I love that one.
That's a really strong one.
Yeah, it's a really good one. If we're talking about we're talking about using other characters' leitmotifs. Unlimited Alloyed Works is always great.
Yeah, I was about to say, that also got brought up in chat. That's another one that's just like, obviously, there's a reason why there are approximately 900 remixes of Emiya, because it's really good. See the fact that the Fate Stay Night is up for a Steam Award.
Yeah.
But the unalloyed works specific version with like the traditional Japanese instrumentation, and also it accompanies a really baller scene where Muramasa does the thing, and you're just like, yeah.
But if we're going way back, freaking Shikisai, The Time of Parting Has Come. That's where we get the semi-orchestral version of the FGO theme when you're fighting Gatia.
Yeah, a classic.
And then you have a Snowflake Shield, which plays when Mash does the thing, the music box version.
I've also talked about this, but it's the original Lord Camelot MP theme is just the original FGO title screen theme with just a little bit deeper implementation that's like a 20-second loop, but that's just so... That means so much to me. I think I've talked about this before, where like, when we finally got that back in LB6, when Mash declared herself Tamlin Galahad, I like... That made me feel very emotional and verklempt. Like, because it is a main theme remix, and you're just like, yeah, I remember this.
Guys, we love music here.
It's good. I don't think there's sort of like FGO music that's forgettable, because they do come up with like every event needs, you know, the fucking shop theme and a couple of fight themes and stuff, but they got a lot of really good ones in there. Remember when we got retro remixes for that one Halloween? No, it's good.
No, it's great. But alright, let's move on. They did have a part 2. Do you have any holiday songs that you particularly like, Omega?
I mean, I want to say it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, but that's just because I also have memorized the It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Fishmen version from the H.P. Lovecraft musical. Christmas musical. Like, yeah, I don't know. A lot of Christmas stuff just kind of blurs together to me.
Unfortunately, I do not have a favorite Christmas music. I do not generally listen to on the reg. So we will move swiftly on. So this next one comes from Soul of the Light Mode Discord, who says, "Dear Snow Miser, Omega, and Lucky, the abominable snow monster of the north, I mainly just want to wish you a Merry Crimbo and Happy Hooligan Gays this year. But now that we're here, I am curious if you have any servants that you're especially looking forward to this upcoming year. As a F2P cheapo, I'm still going back and forth on Tez Texan or Cuckoo Cocoa Puffs. Enjoy the soon refreezing of Nero and Umo all the way.
That's
Nero.
Okay. This year, Nero's going to melt herself early.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, speaking of servants, we're looking forward to in the next year.
Yeah, no, Mucky is riding high on that TMS Draco.
This year is, we say this every year, this year's going to be bad. This year's going to be bad. Tiamat Draco.
LB6 Summer?
Yes, this should be LB6 Summer. That means Ash is the anniversary servant. And also, hey, guess what for me? The limited SSR Medusa is just before that.
Yeah.
Saber Medusa. So, it's bad. It's a bad year. There's a lot going on. And that's not to say that, like, the servants at the front of the year are also cool. It's just we got to be careful.
Pope
Johanna's year.
And I'm gonna be real. After playing Trom, I want the both of them. I want them both in my Chaldea so I can watch over them from afar and eat popcorn as they be awkward around each other. I need that in my life. I can't. Tiamat is right there.
Yeah,
there, looking at me.
And I feel bad for Johannes Boehner because we all knew because they announced ahead of time the collab because they do that like a month ahead of time. The Golden Week collab would be Arcade this year, and so everybody was like, "So Tiamat? It's gonna be Tiamat? It's Tiamat?"
It was Tiamat.
I mean, she was the pre-release one because they had an even bigger zinger for the actual banner drop. But yes, it was Tiamat. So we all knew what was coming. But I also think generally a lot of the front half of the year servants are also really cool. Like Kukulkan is also very, very interesting. We'll get to see if Tez grows on me, but he has like a gun. That's cool.
I'm not a big fan of his art design. I'm gonna be real.
No, that was an interesting case where they really let the artist kind of like do their own stylistic thing, and I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with this, but I don't know if I enjoy this style. Yeah,
that's like Tez is gonna be one of those ones that has to sell me in story, which might happen.
Yeah, we're gonna see it. The one I'm worried about is because it's FGO. It's gonna be Kukulkan. Like that's the one I'm gonna be like. They're gonna try really hard to sell me on that one, and I'm gonna fall for it. I'll probably give like at least a courtesy 10 spin because I'm expecting at New Year's our usual fuck ton of Saint Quartz. For Rasputin.
I will probably pass
because he's a funny
Rasputin.
Guy. And yes, I'm going. Hey, spoilers if it doesn't work, but I'll have to whip up the wanted. But I'm gonna try and get just the Rasputin snippet in the wanted as the audio gag. That's short, but hopefully that should be enough. And then I guess the outro clip will just be, "Oh, those Russians." I'm calling my wanted shot now. If that doesn't make it to the final product, no, the record goblins have got me. The edit has been made against my will.
That's when, a black flan shows up in front of a Mega's house and 4 dudes in suits just be like, no.
I'm just imagining them fucking floating like the weird floating guys from the Death Stranding trailers just hovering outside my house.
Some days that's how it feels. But, yes, no. Big plans, like I said. I want to roll for, I forget, is Tulloch permanent or limited? I can't remember. I think she's permanent?
Let's double check.
Yeah, people are saying she's permanent, so I might, hold out hope that I'll get her randomly. I still haven't got my Vitra yet.
I know, right?
But I have been knocking off a few off my list. I did get my Nemo not too long ago, and other
yes,
such
she
things.
Is our is that our first permanent? No, Hephaestion's also permanent, but
so the Tez and the Cuckoo, it's like. This is going to depend a lot on LB7's story, and if I break down. Now I got JoJo in my head. Thank you, Deep City Memories.
Shining justice. Don't remember the rest.
It's I can't necessarily say I'm a music nerd, but I do like music, and so things that are catchy get stuck into my head, and I will get activated at just a simple phrase.
I mean, that's the thing I want to say is who. If somebody says straight up, I don't like music, there's something wrong with this person. This means one of two things. Either they have some kind of, neurodivergency or something where, like, the sounds of music are just, like, irritating to them, or they clearly have just not found the type of music that vibes with them, because I think there's a reason why music is one of those, like, human universals. We've been, like, carving bones into weird flutes since before we could fucking, like, write or speak or draw, you know? Like, it's one of our oldest things. And no offense meant, obviously, like I said, I assume that generally people who have hearing loss or hearing damage don't say they don't like music. That's a different category. But, like, if just a guy walked up to me and just went, "No, I don't care for music," I'm just like, what?
What is wrong with you?
Huh? Like, if you want to say, "Oh, I don't really vibe with classical music," or "I don't really like EDM," I'm like, okay, that's fine. But to say you don't like music as a genre is, like, it's one of those things that's, like, when people say, "Oh, I don't like reading," or "I don't like video games," I'm like, oh, you just haven't found the right thing yet. Not that everybody needs to find that right thing, you know. I think I've talked about this before. My own mother just has never wanted to pick up a video game in her life. I bet I could find stuff that honestly, she listens to so many audiobooks and reads so much. I bet I could find her some, you know, visual novels to read. But at this point, it's like, she's fine just existing. I don't need to get her, whatchamacallit, the Famicom Detective Club or anything. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, because we got in on something else, but during Lucky's discussion about the meta, I did find a clean cutout of the Roblox oof sound, but could not turn it into the soundboard yet.
Might do that later.
So we can probably... Yeah, I'm remembering now that everybody's saying that Tulok is permanent. Is definitely made me remember, like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I think I wasn't super jazzed about any of the Miklun banners, because she is paired with Kukulkan, but she is permanent. So I'm like, Well, she's also on Tez's banner as well. So at least they doubled up.
Yeah, this is important. I don't know, maybe I'll budget out me some quartz. I just have to pray that I don't get gotcha mad. When Lucky gets gotcha mad, that's when he makes really bad financial decisions. See Girls Frontline 2.
Yeah, strictly speaking, our first new servant will technically be Nido Alter, but she is also El Permanente. Also, I'm just thinking about it now. I was thinking about it already, but now I'm really thinking about it. Man, I'm gonna have to January. I'm gonna have to bust my chops a little.
For what?
I wanted. Some of these are gonna. There's gonna be like four of these, like each a week apart. We're gonna have to. With the Rasputin. When I get Rasputin done, I'm gonna have to start cooking on the next one immediately. This means I get to talk about Nitocris.
Ooh, excuse me.
Yeah, I gotta watch out. Usually, when I get gotcha mad, I just get Sage. But
when you get gotcha mad, you quit. When I get gotcha mad, I pull out the wallet.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
I'll admit though that like I have gotten in when the currency's still flowing. I don't go straight for the wallet. I usually get in the grind set. I don't know where else I'll say this because I don't know if we're going to talk about GFL 2 in depth or not. But I did get Ulrid after I was like 10 from double pity because I missed the first pity coin flip. I got Peritnia instead, but we're good. And I still have like a shitload of missions to keep getting collapsed pieces for the next thing because it's continuing to happen. But I gotta watch out because I might feel like I could spend some money.
We could probably talk a little bit about Girls Frontline and Girls Frontline 2. Like I said, I was able to get something done, and I do want to talk about it a little bit. But we can save that for the What's Up Zone.
Yeah, I did catch up completely with the story, so.
So, with that, our next one. The Master who politely applauds Lysango for giving the Chevalier a buff before the JP release of the new Rose of Versailles movie. If that's why they did it, I'm gonna fucking laugh. But I also believe that's why they did it.
I could totally see them doing that. Maybe that's how it was somebody who just jumped into the studio one day and said, "Hey, there's a new movie coming out," and they're like, "Shit, it reminds us, Dion exists."
Dear Lucky and Manga, hope you haven't been ensnared by the holiday havoc for home or etc. like I have. I wanted to write a letter to you this week because the aforementioned Versailles anime movie. Rose of Versailles was a manga from the 70s that got an anime in the later 70s and now a revival movie in 2025. I have seen it. I love that they are actually keeping the original art style, though. That's what it's like. It's modern animation, but the original art style, looks so good.
Ooh, that's good. I haven't seen any like previews of the new.
I've
heard of Rose of Versailles before, but yeah,
I have as well. I have not read it, but I do know of it, so it is exciting. But are there any manga or animes from the 70s, 80s that either you enjoy but wish to see a modern anime/movie of? Actually, what is I don't know. See, here's something unfortunate thing. I read a lot of manga, and I'm not I read old classic manga too. Unfortunate thing is I don't know actually what year they came out in.
I mean, I have a retroactive answer if that will be allowed. Chat, let me tell you about a little something called Devil May Cry, baby.
Yeah, that was my first thought, but Devil May Cry Baby exists already. And,
it's a very specific sort of remastering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a list of some stuff. The funny thing is that some of these are technically still ongoing or did get revamps. Wasn't there a new Space Pirate Captain Harlock in the past 10 years somewhere?
Yeah, no, they're always making Harlock movies.
And same with Lupin. That's still they've gone through ebbs and flows of making that.
Like I said, I think the oldest manga that I can think of off the top of my head are usually from the early 90s. I want to say
the 70s is a really influential time. I mean, technically they've already done remasters of the original Mobile Suit Gundam. There are also the compilation movies you can get. Honestly, here, I'll share. IMDb does have a list, and I'm a lot of other big 70s titles I think have already gotten their vibes because it's shit like the Anne of Green Gables, anime adaptation. You had Battles of the Planets and Space Battleship Yamato. I already mentioned Harlock and Lupin.
Yeah, I think Cutie Honey's already on track for getting a remake or revival.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Mazinger, Heidi Girl from the Alps, Cutie Honey, Doraemon, Gatchaman, Aishito no Joe, which I think has gotten several revivals and also got remastered, remixed as well. Try and find 80s anime. Let's see, IMDb does have an essentials list from there. Cities of Gold, Go 13. I mean, I'll say that. That's I've seen some clips and bits and pieces. That's another one that's very fun to get into. Fist of the North Star is another 80s classic. Bear Hunter D. I should watch Area 88 sometime. That's one of the few straight up jet plane anime. Didn't go the mecha route. Fucking Guyver, Bubblegum Crisis, original Dirty Pair.
Dirty Pair is also
Has Dirty Pair gotten some stuff?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Ooh, I wouldn't mind seeing some remastered or remake content of Dominion Tank Police. Talk about our boy Masamune.
Like I said, Rama literally has a remake going on right now. Same with
see, late 80s was the original Pat Labor movie. God, the first Appleseed was in the 80s as well.
I wouldn't mind a new Appleseed.
It's been a while since they did the 3D CG movie. I think, I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty sure Masamune Shirow is just, kicking back and, making his money on, Pixiv Fanbox and Patreon and shit. Drawing, private art. Because he's always been, an artist and a doujin seller anyway. Let's see. I mean, that's obviously much newer, but yeah, a Soul Eater reboot would probably be good. There you go. Hey,
Galactic Heroes already got a remake. That's a good one.
Hey, if you guys think of anything, go ahead and let us know in the comments. There's loads and loads of stuff, and I definitely want to say that the 70s and 80s are a very formative time for anime and manga, and there's a lot of classic stuff that's in there. Hell, it took them forever to get to the anime adaptation, but that's how old JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, that one was they waited until the time was right to really take a crack at the adaptation. I know they tried to make a Stardust Crusaders OVA in the 90s, I want to say, late 90s. Once again, reminding you how fucking old JoJo is. But it was very obscure until they made the David Production anime because it's just so bizarre. Yep, they've announced they're working on Steel Ball Run.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see here. Let us move on then to our last one. This one comes from the man with exploding tires. I saw that in Discord. That is, this is where I would play the oof sound again. Ooh! But they say, howdy, Loki and Omega. Hope you are doing well this week as we inch ever closer to the next part of the Mushroom Man's wild ride. My question for the week is, what is each of your guys' game of the year? Ooh, this is a horrible question. Game of the year. What did I play that was exceptional this year? Well, let's see here. So I played Rebirth, Stellar Blade. Let me write this down here, actually. Because I like this question, but I have to actually...
Lucky's got to organize his thoughts. I'm terrible at hierarching, so I think I just have to shotgun FF7 Rebirth.
Let's see here.
That was
Rebirth.
the like game that was a like complete self-contained game that I played the most of this year for sure. And definitely, while I did play like 300-ish hours of Helldivers and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, I don't think I can say that those are my game of the year.
I haven't gotten through P3.
Helldivers is Helldivers 2 is literally the "it's so over, we're so back" meme.
14 could be in there, I suppose, especially in the patch, but that's constant.
Some other really red games.
Alright, so I think the top 4 probably have to be Rebirth, Blade, Metaphor, and Unicorn Overlord. Metaphor, I think is good. It's not that great. Unicorn Overlord is also pretty good, but I think it was maybe a little rushed. Things did not pay off as well as it could have been. Stellar Blade is a very good game, but it's also a company's first AA game on the console and PC when they had formerly been doing a lot of gacha games. So they make some missteps. So yeah, no, I think I have to agree with Mega. I think it has to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Mostly because it is a retelling of a tale as old as time and has opened up the possibilities for so many things. Like, shipping wars about it are being fought to this day. Hell, even the director had to weigh in on it earlier and has ignited a whole new round of rage.
Rebirth and the FF7 remake in general is just because the team working on it is constantly like going in the tank to do more work on the next game, and then they come back out and like do a new round of interviews and shit. You know, because like I think they did several interviews while they were in the States for the Game Awards, for instance. Like, that is just the discussion that keeps on giving. Like, people are still thinking about this, talking about that. You know, we're working on this part or that part of the project, or you know, today we want to talk about this, that, and the other thing. So yeah, no, I think I like I said, I have to lock in Rebirth. Like, thinking about it, like, would I say Helldivers 2? No, that I still enjoy Helldivers, but I feel like, one, I end up playing Helldivers in very specific ways to handle its kind of, like, ongoing nature. But also, like, absolutely, there have been very bad weeks, months even, of Helldivers. And, like, I can't say it's you know, my overall pick. Despite putting the most hours into it, Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail is not as much of an over-the-top hitter as, like, you know, Shadowbringers or Endwalker yet. It's the base level of the X-Pack doesn't hit those highs quite yet. Well, if Dawn Trail is Stormblood 2, we'll wait for the next X-Pack, which therefore must be Shadowbringers 2, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Hey, if they could deliver me another Shadowbringers quality experience as like a follow-up, like, hell yeah. Let Expanse contract, let Eons become instant, baby. Put me back in the machine. Crystal Exarch. But yeah, no, like, Space Marine 2 was really good, but also, like, I beat the story mode, and yeah, I could go into PvP, or I could try PvE, but, I kind of don't want to. It is crossplay. If I could get some, like, a solid squad of homies in for like, the 3-man, the PvE or do campaign co-op, I'd go back to it, but I'm definitely not, like, knocking down any doors to play it over again on a higher difficulty. I haven't finished P3 yet. Like I said, I keep staring at its disc in my game, but I'm like, God, there's so much shit going on. I mentioned this earlier. I'm talking about all the other games I want to get into. I'm feeling an urge to go back and like, it's been months since I opened up TCG Card Shop Simulator, and I'm like, just like, I should go back in there. I never finished getting through all my leveling. I never completely climbed the ladder. God knows what new things they've added for me to unlock and sell to people. So yeah, it's Rebirth.
All right then. So with that, we have reached the end of this week's mailbag. Thank you everyone who sent one in. I hope to see you next week, and even more of you.
Somebody on my Steam friends list literally just opened up TCG Card Shop Simulator. I'm just like, why are you taunting me?
It's a sign!
But that does mean we're leaving the mailbag zone, your personal privatized mail service, and we're entering the Chaldea Free Talk zone. This means that we're entering the spoiler dimension, and you should probably skip ahead like 30 minutes. Hey, Robin, you don't have to do time codes, but when you inevitably listen to this back, just leave in the comments of the YouTube video what time we stop yapping about the Lostbelt. Actually, anybody can do that, but I feel like calling out Robin specifically, just because he'll make a funny face at me. He'll steal some VTubers' emos.
I'm about to say, yeah, no, he'll steal an emote and put that on you.
Yeah, same mindset. I'm just like, he's going to steal some VTubers' emote and post it at me. Anyway, Lostbelt 7 Part 2 drop. So, this is, first of all, I think I want to note, there is a little bit of ambiguous information in here, but I want to bring this up at the top and remind you of it later, because remember big scary foreigner enemy from the end of the Part 1? You're going to fight that person several times, including in Part 2 and in the third part. It's kind of a recurring thing. Something I didn't mention off the top, but I should say, when you're fighting all those battles with them, your servants are going to have a unique death animation. They do not do the normal thing. This also means their death lines are cut off. Mash still does her normal retreat out of frame, but everybody else has a special animation played. This is integrated into raid mechanics in the third phase we're not talking about yet, but the animation thing I'm still pretty sure happens even in the story fights in the first and second parts. So I am giving you this preface now, saying that I am not 100% clear on how the rules work, because we don't actually mention how this is supposed to work until we get to the raid phase, but it might apply in the story phases before that. So keep this in mind, that if you have those servants die in those fights, you will be locked out of using them in future fights with that enemy, including, I think, on revives, and obviously during raids you can't revive at all. Your raid run ends when the group is wiped. You will be able to, at HP thresholds of the raid, later recover them, so it's not like a perma-loss, but it is a thing to think about. Actually, fun fact, if every single servant you have gets jobbed out during the raid format, you just hard reset. You have to start the personal raids over again. Yeah, you get kicked back to the beginning of the raid tier. So do keep that in mind. But the only servant who's not subject to this is Mash. Instead, she gets, in the raid phase, she gets locked out for a few battles. But she doesn't have the animation played. So just keep it in mind. The game is going to be keeping track of these fights, and you will have persistent effects over time. This enemy also is going to start doing like debuffs that may rack up over like how many times you fought the enemy as well. So there are mechanics about the grind set in this just to keep in mind through phase 1 and throughout future phases. Okay. Lucky's stepping away, so I will give you our brief introductory cap as I stretch out my bones. I talk slightly over Lucky's door creaking. Actually, as a complete aside, sorry y'all about not having more to report on working on the next LB6-bit. You guys, like I said, did respond to me and say you want it bigger, so that's what we're going with, but I still have to chew through the first chunk of that, which is 2 hours of audio anyway, and then we're going to see where we're going for the next bit. But I've got the project started, but I've not been able to work much because I've been sick, and also we're back to my wrist and hand bones bothering me a little. Hopefully I can just be whole and healthy and hardy and clunk out. Hopefully not having to prep for rain this weekend will help, because we are going to have to schedule that out for multiple misses. But we will keep on keeping on, and do not be afraid that we are not going to be giving you our initial first impressions on the 27th. We'll give you, an extra week to make sure you've gotten through some of it. We will be taking our usual super mega detailed notes, so get ready for more turbo long episodes again. But anyway, the Part 2 drop is going to, the segment anyway, which constitutes the Part 2 drop we are going to talk about in this section, is going to go from Act 11 to 20. So still not super huge. This Lostbelt in the end is kind of in the intermediate size. I think it ends on like Act 24 or 25? Not super long. But we're talking about 11 through 20 today. And hopefully with the delay, we don't have to worry about the fact that we're taking a week off to make sure we're going to get you the third phase drop. But obviously, there are also, by the way, a couple of fragments as well. So we have side stories. All of these obviously are going to grant you more sync quartz, more frags, more mats, more pure prisms. You're looking at, probably another 10 or 11 sync quartz from this section alone. I do not believe you will unlock free quests until after the whole thing is done as usual. So no farming or anything to be done. Just going to rely on them pure prisms. Generally, in this phase, you're not going to have nearly as much access to our special guest character or the NPC Mash. Mash is still a part of things, but it's mostly going to be asking you to put your own Mash in that slot. But your support access, first of all, and this is the thing I talked about earlier when I was talking about banners. I was like, I'm eternally worried, especially about what they're going to do with Kukulkan, because guess what? Phase 2 got a lot of NPC Kukulkan. She's in it a lot, which means the danger. There are a few more surprise NPCs, but also you're looking at like I said, a support round with Kukulkan, a fair amount of support Nidocris, and also new run at Small Da Vinci joining you. Though in her case, much like with Habatrat and with Mash in the previous phase, you can either use your own Da Vinci or you can use the story support NPC. I'm pretty sure my Da Vincus is NP2, so I'll probably be using my own. I've got her, all 10, 10, 10 and stuff. Speaking of metas that were previously good. But we're going to start running through the acts. Okay, we're both back. The show is running once more.
Yeah!
But yes, while you stepped away for a second, Lucky, I mentioned that I talked about why I'm afeared for Kukulkan specifically, because I mentioned that while we will be using our special guest character NPC a lot less, there's a lot of story support Kukulkan in this phase. So she'll be here a lot, and you'll probably want to use her because she's going to have a special story buffs. So, starting at Act 11, where this starts, much like the early phases of the first part, this is mostly just breaking in new NPCs, meeting new people. You got some very normal fights with fairly low-level mobs. I will warn you, in Pip 3, there is going to be a fight with another Vorpal chicken who has 303,000 HP. Just keep that in mind.
We cannot escape chicken.
No, we keep doing the flashback. Truly our most fearsome foe.
First it was dragons, now it is wyverns, now it is chicken.
Yeah. The fifth arrow in Act 11 does have a real fight. There is an alter ego who starts with 2 million HP. Technically they have a second break bar, but it doesn't matter. You just gotta break the first one. You gotta use Kukulkan and Small Da Vinci in the party. Kuku has a shitload of story buffs, and more specifically, she has the ability to remove the boss's stacks of max HP up on critical hits, so you will shave down the boss's HP to a reasonable amount. Or you'll just do 2 million damage, whatever works for you first, FGO players. And like I said, you win after 1 break bar. Pip 6 has a flashback fight to Poseidon Core. Really don't know what I'm waiting for the context on this one. But it's Poseidon Core Lancer boss, 136, 150, 265k HP. Mr. Chiron is here as well with 108 and 150k HP, plus some buffs. It's basically just the fight that closed out Atlantis again. Like I said, I don't know why we do that flashback, but we do, so I'll figure that out, when we get to Act 11. Speaking, by the way, of things FGO does to make it so you can't free turn clear story content anyway, which I think is their big reason for a lot of these buffs and change-ups. Act 12 is just a bunch of, big, strong mob fights. Lots and lots and lots of mobs, many skeletons for you to fight. But they're experimenting with, normal trash mobs having break bars. They still only have, 10k HP, but if they're in 2 bars, you cannot, legally, you cannot, 3-turn loop them. So, yeah, we're gonna play around with a lot of mechanics. Don't be freaked out when you see, like I said, a skeleton with, 10k HP, but a break bar pip. Now, Act 13 is going to be a real one. We got some real shit to do. First of all, you're going to have to fight some more Ocelot guys, the Leopard Mask men. They have a Berserker Elite, who is actually a boss or mid-boss type guy. He has 104 and 201,000 HP, and he has damage resistance versus NP specifically, and gets a free 1 hit of evade every turn.
Oh.
So bring your shirts, bring your pierces, do crits. He is a Berserker, so I think if you've got him, Super Orion will just, scrunch him up like a basketball and Chaos Dunk him. But there are many strats that work if you want to just force crits to happen. Later down the line, you're going to have a solo fight with... you have to use NPC Nidocris versus Sandworms. They're not actually Sandworms, but that's what the enemies are called, so I'm not going to spoil what the enemies actually are. You'll just have to deal with it when we get there. It's like Lostbelt 6, and that is not a mouse all over again. But there'll be some story stuff with the solo fight, so you'll probably get through it. After that, you have to do a rematch with the same Sandworms, but now you can actually use your normal team support setup. That said, watch out. The boss wave will randomly dish out NP Seal for 5 turns on one of your guys.
Oof.
It is removable, but it's still, your teams maybe goofused a little. And this is a long one. This goes to Pip 8 or 9. Pip 6 is going to be our usual fake fight, but with extra steps. You're going to fight a Lancer boss. They have 160, 214, and 313 KHP. They have permanent NP resistance, or resistance to NP damage up. They automatically NP when you break their bar 1. You must take NPC Cuckoo. If she dies, the fight ends. And basically, you are trying to make the fight last until you only have Kukulkan remaining and the enemy boss is down 1 HP bar. So it's not like a complete fake fight, but it is a endurance fight you have to quote-unquote lose. And then, funnily enough, the way we resolve this is after a story pip, we get to pip 8. It's literally the exact same fight, including the same like buffs and debuffs from the boss. The boss has the same HP values. I think they do actually get like the NP damage resistance removed. But you have to solo with NPC Cuckoo. A true solo matchup. Act 14, you're just going to fight some dinos. Bunch of different dino fights. To remind you, dinosaurs are still in this. Act 15 has some more funny haha stuff. First, you gotta fight some more regular Jaguar Mask guys. But you do have another fight with Kadok Master Skills. You're gonna fight a ruler boss with 144 and 218k HP. You can pick from NPC Nemo, Nito, or Da Vinci. You're gonna pick story NPC Nemo because this is the boss that stuns servants who aren't levitating unless you have Nemo in your story support Nemo in your party. So keep that in mind. This is another case where like you don't have to fight all the boss's HP bars, but Act 15 ends with another boss who it's still a real fight, I'm gonna say, because you have to get through their first HP bar at 704,000 HP.
Jeez.
They get 3 hits of invul at the end of every turn. They get extra NP per turn. The works. Oh, and your party order is reversed.
Great.
So whatever you put in the last slot actually goes in the first slot. It's not shuffled, at least, but they're going to topsy-turvy you. And you permanently have the fear debuff, the chance to be stunned at the end of every turn. So, great big lead-up. Anyway, Act 16 is just oops all story. I'm warning you now. I've seen the future. Act 17, it's going to suck. Here's why. So, you're going to have to fight 3 battles with an enemy who's going to be using Beast 1's old resistance profile. So, double damage to Knight class servants, takes double damage from Cavalry class servants, deals half damage to Avengers and Moon Cancers. The enemy NP has a chance to instant kill as well. The wiki recommends going mostly Moon Cancers because they have an inherently high instant death resist, and any other servant who can give you death resist is a solid one. I would say if you've got him, Old Man of the Mountain is probably a good pick, as he will deal the extra damage and also has that lovely instant death resistance. The boss also has the ability to give themselves 3 turns of debuff immunity, so not permanently, just 3 turns when we feel like it. 3 turns as well as NP resistance, and also, my favorite mechanic, once again telling you not to 3-turn clear. If you use 3 or more active skills in a turn, the boss procs a debuff that gives your whole team buff success down for 3 turns.
Jesus.
No percentage is given, but we are absolutely in the mood of like, hey players, you know how you like put out 3 servants and you just fire all 9 of their skills at once? Fuck you, actually. So if you want to make that work, make sure you to have buff success up, or you are using your skills very selectively. Your first 2 fights are warm-ups. You just have to break their first HP bar, which is 381,000. The final fight is real. You're looking at 402, 451, 504k HP. They have the ability to activate a skill, which means they do poison on normal attack. Every break bar, they're going to reset their 3 turns of NP resistance and debuff immunity. And after bar 1, the enemy has a new buff that's enemy exclusive. Literally, our servants can't use it because it's Red Guts. What does Red Guts do, chat? Oh, it's Guts, but for break bars.
What?
When you would zero out their bar, the bar does not break, and they get HP back. So they Red Guts twice, and then on their last HP bar, when the break bars are out, they get 3 regular Guts for like 50k each.
I am blaming people who clear content way too quickly and then complain about it. Jesus, why?
Yeah, we just gotta come up with fucking new shit. I'm kind of glad we have gone the routes of like using Guts for a little bit extra length rather than like make this guy have like fucking 1 million HP. You know, like our original solution for like the Solomon raids was to give like Gatia a fuck ton of HP that didn't matter because you could just max that Jolter damage anyway. or Kentucky, I think was very popular in the original run. There's lots of ways you can just Buster Turbo. But the thing is that, like, it's still, like, 2 break bar gutses, 3 last HP bar gutses. It's a lot of fucking guts, man.
I don't be using my Leyline Stones like no tomorrow. I feel this already.
I mean, I do... honestly, though, like, saying it, yes, this is probably Nasu trying to make story fights feel more difficult, but why does Nasu feel compelled to make them feel more real? It's probably because he goes on Twitter and sees people talking about their fucking 3-turn setups. Like, you know, chicken and egg type shit. Anyway, that's the last of this special boy in Act 17. Like I said, you're gonna have to choose through some guts. In Act 18, you're going to have to kill a bunch of tree seeds. They're foreigners, don't worry about them. There's going to be a pretender boss. The pretender boss has 286 and 393k HP. You must use Support Nito. Support Nito has extra attack and 1 time of guts, though it is permanent. The boss has a defense up and NP charge on attack, and also, I think it's either permanently or on attack, they get increased quick and arts resistance. But when you attack them, they get buster resistance down. So, kind of like a weird push and pull thing. Bar 2 also adds a 10k heal per turn, and makes the NP charge when attacked 2 ticks. So, get some NP seal and some charge down ready. And remember, you know, pretenders. Kind of Beast 1 stats. Act 19 is a shitload of different fights. So first of all, somehow that fucking Avenger boss who heals to max HP every time you attack him is still alive. You must kill him again. You have a 2-man cell. It's mash and 1 free slot, 2 servants only. You have to find a way to do in 1 turn 84k HP. Is the way he heals. The ruler boss who reverses your party is back. Yes, the party reverse mechanic is still in there. You're only going to have to do 174, 203, and 216k HP. His last couple of HP bars are fake. The fight ends after the first 3. Still gets 3 hits of invul every turn. In later bars, is going to start summoning ads, and also going to give you a HP loss at the end of turn, so not a dot, but a HP drain at the end of turn, and an NP gain down debuff for 10 turns, but these are removable. Ignore the ads. The ads give the main boss guts or red guts when killed. So just single target focus that ruler motherfucker. But wait! It's the special guest from the top rope! Literally, you break the bar and you move into the next phase where they just have 334 and 395k HP left. You get your special guest character back. The enemy does now have 2 permanent ruler ads who show up who will debuff you with NP seal for 1 turn. Every turn also taunt themselves, so now you're going to want to use AoE to just get those fuckers out of there. I mean, Big Fluff is the issue where, like, he's impossible to grind out. Because your like stacks of curse and extra damage when cursed just get so much that no servant can keep up. But these guys definitely have some mean stall strats of their own. So the last fight in 19 is you're going to fight some foreigner enemies. You have to use Mash and the special guest character in front, plus your remaining normal slots. Starts with 3 enemies. We get 3 more ads. They get buffs per turn. This fight has a fairly unique mechanic, and remember, this is the last fight in Act 19. The enemies will get stronger and have more attacks per turn, like basically their rarity gets increased more, the more servants you use. So it is recommended to just use your mandatory mash, story support, and 1 servant of your own choice. They are all foreigner enemies, and they have relatively small HP pools, like they're all like 50 to 80k. But it's just one of those things where, like, actually trying to do this with the minimum number of guys is better, because the enemy AI will be tougher. And then to round it out in Act 20, it's like poetry, it rhymes. The big boy is back. Foreigner enemy, 200, 600, 800k HP. Yes, that's 800k in the last break bar. You must put support Cuckoo in the front row, but she gives you resistance to the enemy's attacks. The enemy now, like, has skills and can give you debuffs as time goes on. Basically, the more stacks of this debuff you get from their, like, regular attacks and skill procs, the more your max HP will be slowly eaten away. Also, each time you break their bar, their attack increases, and at their, like, last break bar, they get a delayed max NP charge buff. So they charge their NP to max 3 turns from then, as opposed to the instant you break the bar. Otherwise, nothing you haven't seen already in the the Part 1 fight. And obviously, like, smaller HP pools and you have better story buffs, but still gonna be a tough one. Gonna have some stuff to scrungle. But that should be the end of Part 2. There will be a short delay for a 3rd phase drop. As I said before, that will include raid mechanics.
Raid?
So we're going to cover those when our next show comes out, as we should still have the time. But yeah, it's really interesting to see them, like, artificially break up Lostbelts into this 3 structure, because, like, the first drop ends with a big fight with the final enemy, but you can't hope to defeat. The second fight ends with a fight with the big final enemy you can't hope to defeat, but you're getting a little bit better at it. And then, we're gonna work on it. But also, like, there are a lot of fights in part 1 that are just, like, waves and waves of ads as you're getting used to your, new allied servants, and you're figuring out the new rules of this world. And then the second act, the second part, is just, holy shit, so many boss fights. Multiple big headliner enemies. And several characters who are stuck in NPC jail as well. So, get ready for all that stuff. But that is going to be, as I said, part 2. And then I believe, not put in the show notes, but before moving fully on to, what's up, talking about whatever, I should do Fanservant Friday.
Probably,
as that is still FGO related. Soz. In our last Fanservant Friday poll of the year, it was, basically, oops all, writers. There was one Berserker. Now I gotta go in the tank and come up with some new ideas, because, we're down to 3 in my short list, which is less than the number I usually run on the poll, so we had a few things to chip out of there. But the one that our lovely patrons, support us on Patreon, vote on the, at the 5 and up tier, you can vote in topic polls every month, was, finally, after some years of being in the roster, Maria Okierabriska. I'm probably not pronouncing all the Y's in there. So, Miss Okierabriska, is a relatively modern servant. It was a real-life person. She was born 1905, died 1944. So, right on the cusp of when fate usually allows servants. But we'll get some extra English in there. The short version, if you don't know, she was born in the Soviet Union, in what is the Crimean Peninsula, Crimea. So, we can we can discuss at different times where the Crimea belongs. But there have been several wars fought over it. But Maria is most famous because in 1924 she married a Soviet army officer and basically became a kind of what you'd expect, a military officer's wife. She was involved with other military wives. She trained as an army nurse. She learned how to drive vehicles. This will be important later. But when the Eastern Front started, she was relocated, and her husband was killed in 1941. Instead of becoming the Big Sad, she became the Big Mad. Especially because it took about 2 years for this news to get her. So she sold all of her possessions to purchase and donate a tank to the Red Army. It was a T-34, a incredibly robust tank, was in service for many, many years. Technically, arguably, is still seeing now, because on its Wikipedia page, the number of wars it was involved in include the literally just ended Syrian civil war and the ongoing Yemeni civil war. So,
Really?
T-34s are still being used.
Wow.
The Soviets made a lot of them. But, like, you have seen them so many places. A classic medium tank. Obviously, like, outperformed by modern main battle tanks, but something that was, like, mass-produced and easily maintained and repaired enough for them to get in there. And it's one of those things, right, where, like, when you talk about, like, peer-to-peer warfare, as soon as, like, the Korean War, American tanks could penetrate the T-34's armor, but still, they used sloped armor and other effects to get through there. But when you're a human man armed with, like, probably, an AK clone or a bolt-action rifle, any kind of tank is kind of a serious problem. So, yes, it does not shock me that T-34s have been in use. And as somebody in our chat said, was cutting edge at the time. It was first produced in 1940, so, like, the tank is only a couple years old at this point. Very advanced. And like I said, incredibly easy to mass produce and went through several upgrades. The Soviets built, apparently at our best guess, about 80,000 of these things. Wow. So even though the Germans destroyed literally tens of thousands of them, they had more. Also, by the way, if you've ever thought that, like, RTS, mass production swarm factions are not real, no. The Soviets actually did have that strategy in World War II. But the funny thing about Maria's donated T-34 tank is that she requested that she be allowed to drive it. Keep in mind, she's in her mid-30s at this point, and she wished it to be specifically named the Fighting Girlfriend. And for some reason, the Soviets agreed to this. So they put Fighting Girlfriend on the turret, and she was trained as a tanker. She was posted to the actual, an actual tank brigade. She was a driver and a mechanic. As I mentioned, she had already, as an officer's wife, had gone through first aid and combat training. At first, the men in her unit thought it was like a publicity stunt. But no, she was actually that mad. She was that angry and served with distinction. Went where the fighting was fiercest. She had a reputation as a skilled driver. Also, as I said, as a mechanic. There was an incident that was widely reported during an engagement where normally the tactic was to abandon your tank when it was disabled. Yeah. She would get out and fix them. At least in one case, German artillery disabled a track, and she, got out and fixed it, and they rejoined their unit. Destroyed, many emplacements. She was promoted to sergeant at one point, so, actually earned an NCO rank. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, during one of the many incidents where she would get outside the tank and repair it, she was struck by shrapnel and knocked unconscious. She was transported to a Soviet military hospital and unfortunately died on, as I said, 15th of March of 1944, but she was posthumously given the award of the Hero of the Soviet Union. So, a short story, but one of those moments that everybody thinks, yeah, that's pretty rad. And I do want to say that, technically I got my first idea from this from, a Reddit thread somewhere, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. People were saving off, what would be a cool servant to have. And I stuck this one in my back pocket since then, so I have absolutely no idea who first gave a crack at it, because it was literally years ago, but I agree, this was a pretty rad idea for a servant. Because, you see, we're not just going to put Maria Okabritska in as a writer, though obviously I think she has a decent amount of heroism to go for, but also, as fate loves to make things weird, we're going to make things a little weird. The tank. Truly a marvel of the human mind. Something we have been thinking about for years. Indeed, did you know Leonardo da Vinci sketched out a plan for an armored fighting vehicle in the Renaissance? Da Vinci's turtle tanks was a thing. Leonardo da Vinci, by the way, was so worried that somebody would actually use his ideas. It is widely believed, because the gears don't work, that Da Vinci sketched his gearbox patterns in reverse. So instead of doing a proper geared action and working, they would lock up. So there's a long legend of the idea of an armored vehicle, and obviously during the First and Second World Wars, they truly became a part of our, popular culture. Why do we call the blue classes in Final Fantasy XIV tanks? Well, that's because that's what when we think of big armored HP sync guy, we think tank. All back from those original World War I, those first generations of tanks were literally just metal boxes on treads, but it was new. It was impressive. And it gives us some room to add some very fun extra stuff. So I am picturing our wonderful Media here as going a little bit of the Mecha Musume route. I don't actually think there is a solid gacha game for tank girls.
Tank girls? No.
But there have been a route for that. There was spin-offs to Strike.
Girls and Panzer have a gacha game? Let me check.
Yeah, I don't think the girls are fused with their tanks, but they do ride in them. But... Girls and Panzer obviously is very popular. Girls riding tanks. And I was about to say, Strike Witches, I believe, has some spin-off manga which are about tank witches. And there are a few armored vehicle, Mecha Musume style things. But that's definitely, I think, the angle we would go for here. Armored tank tread legs, big gun, extra armor plates. And obviously, if you want to get, at different levels of ascension, you can get your different level of tactical greebles. There are definitely, tactical waifu games and plenty of Mecha Musume artists you could tap for this kind of thing to, start relatively normal and then go to, extra mechanized armor plating, all that works. Make sure to cover her in more shiny metals. So, we're going Rider, lawful, neutral, pretty normal stuff. Stats, Strength C, Endurance A, that's modified by other stuff, Agility C, Magical Power E, Luck C+, can't be too high, but a little bit of luck. NP also C++. Fairly median stats. The Endurance is very high, obviously, because of boosts that skills give. Passive, class skills, Magic Resistance D, just the extra magic resistance you get for being a rider. Maria is from a fairly normal time when, we were talking about big reductions in the amount of mystery in the world, so definitely, no more extra magical resistance, but a riding level C+. She was a skilled driver, and that does usually translate to riding effects. That's the reason why, despite the fact that, King Arthur doesn't know what the fuck a motorbike is, Artoria can drive her motorcycle pretty well, because riding encapsulates a lot of things. For personal skills, Bravery C+, pretty normal skill to C. Valor and Mental Fortitude, negates the effects of Fear, Confusion, and Charm. Also enhances melee attack power. To perform battlefield repairs, Maria would charge into gunfire to perform them, so strong resistance to mental suppression. This skill is a skill that several servants who were early had. It's just attack up and, mental debuff resist. Pretty normal stuff. Mechanized Armor EX, a skill previously seen on our big boy Babbage, but I think this also works in that okay. And basically, as an extension of her normal phantasm, Maria's body is covered in tank armor. Her physical parameters, especially endurance, are on par with an average heroic spirit to more. Basically, the mystery of the tank is greater than her own. As I said, this is a legend of, the armored fighting vehicle going back all the way to the time of Leonardo da Vinci, of just what if we just had a wagon filled with cannons and covered in armor plates? Wouldn't that be rad? And tanks are pretty cool. Just see how many leaks there are on War Thunder. Actually, I think half the War Thunder leaks are about aviation.
They're definitely about planes, but it's still funny.
There have also been leaks about tanks. I think actually one of the first one was about the British Challenger tank. A guy just showed him the tanker manual because they were like, hey, by the way, in case you don't know, the British Challenger tanks do indeed involve, as part of the kit, the tea kettle. It is part of the standard construction to make sure there is room to boil water for tea. But also, by the way, I do want to say, that also is just smart. If the British troops inside the tank don't have the kettle built in, that means they need to leave their tank to boil water to make tea. Crazy talk. Stay inside. Third personal skill, Mechanic B+, kind of like the medical skills you see sometimes on servants. Basically, normal engineering and repair skills. She was a skilled driver and, tank mechanic. She can generate tools with magical energy, repair a wide variety of mechanical items. Modern electronics, anything with microcircuits is going to be beyond her skill, but basically anything from World War II or earlier would be within her grasp. As a, fluff thing, I even wrote she can integrate devices into her armor to upgrade herself. So, if you need to, add radios, headlights, she can bolt devices to her mechanical armor. But also, just in general, the ability to magically generate tools. Imagine there's some attacks where she just throws wrenches at people. You never know when you want to throw some wrenches around.
I'm just taking 14 now. I can't.
Oh, Steam Mecha Waltz Anime Tank Girls. I'll look at this Steam listing later. It is funny to me that I understand what we're going for, but I have seen a lot of Mecha Musume designs. A lot of them do go the girls in bikinis with just bits of tank strapped to them, and I'm just this is not tonk enough. Give me big girls, big armor. But yes. This would probably be some sort of support skill, self-buffs to maybe generate some stars and some other critical effects. Could even do a sure hit or something, we're integrating devices. And then final personal skill, which I modeled off of Boudica's Oath to Andraste and a couple of other such skills. Vow to the People, Oath to the People of the Soviet Union. Before the war, Maria was, a telephone operator and worked in a canning factory. She was a normal working class person, the kind of person you would expect to be a Soviet hero. Never mind how Soviet communism actually worked out, but on the posters. Honestly, to editorialize slightly, I joked about, for some reason, the Soviet military services decided to allow her to rebrand the tank. They were probably thinking, that's pretty cool. you've got an actual Soviet working class woman married to an army officer who wants to donate and drive a tank and put the words "fighting girlfriend" on us. You can't write publicity this good.
Well, as you did say, the men that she served with, her crew, did think it was a publicity stunt, so...
Until they realized that, no, this woman is just this nuts. She's here for the fight.
She angry.
She's this mad at the Nazis. And fellas, don't you just love a girlfriend who would sell everything she owns to buy a tank to fight the Nazis? They literally don't make them like that anymore. Both the tanks and the girlfriends. But yeah, so oath to the people of the Soviet Union, she was a normal working class gal, but financed a tank to protect the people, their lost loved ones. Improves her parameters all over against their enemies, but this is a lovely ability to introduce a new trait and tag all servants from the region of Germania. Anti-Germania damage. Obviously, that should not be the entirety of the skill, because that would be fairly niche. Sorry, Siegfried, you count. Listen, as cool as you are, Siegfried, Wagner had some.
Sorry. My first thought was him just being, "I'm sorry."
Yes, so was I. That's the thing. If Siegfried met this woman, he would just be, "I'm sorry. That's terrible for you." And I have to imagine Kriemhild and this woman would get along like a house on fire.
They don't even say anything. They just look at each other. Immediate handshake.
Yes, just wife 5
grips.
No, that's right. They do the Predator handshake. Even though, as we've noticed, Kriemhild is a fairly small woman. Sadly, I do not know if they recorded Miss Okuyabritska's height anywhere. But yeah, this would probably integrate other buffs like, general, probably like attack up and, debuff resistance sort of a thing. Maybe a specific like buster up or something. But I do love just the joke of sticking anti-Germania trait damage in there. If you wanted to, you could extend that to also include some of the, Nordic stuff, but there are at least, like I said, at least a couple of servants actually from the Germania region, and you could clock in a few more. Technically, you should probably include Charlemagne in that, because he was the king of the Germans and the Franks, and then, split it between his sons. This is the thing I did talk about in the Charlie Wanted, about how it's very funny that literally Germany and France can both trace their lineage to being unified by Charlemagne because he did both, but the inheritance split the two countries up. Culturally, obviously, they were also very different, but it's just one of those funny little things. But you want to hear about the Noble Phantasm, I'm sure, chat. Which in this case would be, of course, the Fighting Girlfriend, the finest tank in the world, a C++ anti-army Noble Phantasm, named after the specific T-34 tank she purchased and drove under the Soviet army. Basically, thanks to the power of a skill which, instead of being innocent monster, would be more like innocent machine, the mystery of the tank is greater than Maria Okuyabritska, so she is fused with the tank, so it is sort of an always active Noble Phantasm. She would always have access to its 76mm tank gun and twin 7.62mm Soviet machine guns. Obviously, against servants, even twin 7.62 machine guns are not going to be super great, but distract and slow them down. And, creating 76mm tank shells out of mana is probably going to be pretty good against even servants. And obviously, you can switch freely between high explosive heat and AP ammo for different effects. I'm just imagining that, once again, this is probably just got to be like, big Uriah yells, and just like the NP animation is just firing machine guns wildly, and then, you can't really mag dump a tank gun, but, fire a bunch of tank shells, blow some shit up. So, yeah, she's fused with the tank and tank armor. She has free access to its guns, both the machine guns and the main gun, different ammo types as well, and increased defenses. And obviously, she is integrated into her armor, the Hero of the Soviet Union award, so inspiration for allies. In battle, probably you've got access to AP and high explosive anti-tank ammo, so probably give yourself a nice piercing up front, pierce defense or pierce invul. Probably do an AoE damage. I imagine it would be Buster, because Buster is red like an explosion, and also red like the Red Army. Simple matchups for some of these things. But also probably give your, a party-wide strength up. Maybe even do something similar to like what Loki did recently, which is like, do self-buster up first, but then do a buster up for the other members of your team after, kind of a thing. And as a Hero of the Soviet Union, you could add an extra like extra trait buff, give an extra attack up if the servants are from any of the lands linked with the wider Soviet Union, which would be most of Eastern Europe. Obviously, given how the Russian Revolution went, strictly speaking, you shouldn't include Rasputin and Anastasia in this, but it would be funny if they got buffs. But there are, several other, obviously Big Ivan, and a couple of other servants from the Soviet bloc, because the Soviet area was quite large. And yes, like I said, I'm imagining even though technically, like, the Noble Phantasm is always active as the mechanized armor skill, the actual, like, NP card is, big barrage, fire some shots, hit some enemies, probably do piercing, like I said, and some other effects in there. This was one of my, like, earliest ideas. Like I said, I read this in, like, a Reddit post and was like, that's really cool. I gotta write this down, for my homebrew RPG. I'm thinking of, like, characters who would make really interesting servants for a, like, 1v1 Grail War. But obviously, FGO has a lot of characters. I don't know where this would fit in. I'm personally imagining that we probably wouldn't go too crazy on the stats. I'm thinking probably, like, a 2-star or 3-star. If we did a 3-star, it would be comparable with, like, Babbage.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have waifu power, but nominally, we're talking about a person who should be a very low power heroic spirit, if even be a heroic spirit at all, but is being hard carried by the fact that, like, for literally hundreds of years, people have been looking at the concept of an armored fighting vehicle and being like, neat.
I also gotta remember, I do believe she was in her late 30s when this all happened, so...
Yeah. Her prime is a mature adult woman driving a tank.
It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Get Raita on that. I don't think we've put Raita's full mechanical prowess into FGO.
Yeah, usually we have a couple of mecha artists on FGO, but usually they draw just mecha or just people. Get me some more mecha people in here.
Well, no, I think Raita would be best because, as people should know, Raita helped with the mechanical designs in Valkyria Chronicles.
Yes,
which had
that was what I was thinking as well. It's like,
yeah,
Raita specifically has the chops for this
like
kind
good,
of like
a good tank design.
Yeah,
probably like good World War II tank design. I should say.
And also the other like design elements, because obviously he was the character illustrator as well. So like uniforms, tactical tchotchkes, etc. It would be a pretty good Raita fit.
Yeah.
This also probably means that, as we said, this means that Madia would probably be a big lady, which is perfectly fine.
Right, is perfectly okay with drawing big ladies. Something
long history of big burly Slavic women, and like I said, gotta huck some wrenches at people. It's I don't play Machinist very often in 14, but it is the funniest fucking thing when you hit him with the dismantle. And if you don't know, by the way, that's not even an attack in 14. Dismantle is a targeted damage down debuff on enemies. The animation is still, you just pull a wrench out of nowhere and fucking fling it at them, which is great. It's, instead of Pocket Sand, it's Pocket Wrench. But yes, that is our Fan Servant Friday. And yeah, I think some of Wright's technical designs would be a good pull. But alright, that's going to bring us then into the What's Up phase.
What's up? It's the What's Up.
Ooh, they got the big wheelie Tsar tanka. Got some very funny stuff going on. Anyway, well, we said we'd cycle back around to it, so probably our longest overall conversation would be, as I said last week, I hadn't watched Secret Level, and I was like, I'm going to watch all Secret Level. And I've mostly done that.
Yeah.
I can't say completely, because I did just end up not... I did, like, a big binge of, like, the last couple from Season 1. Like, I'd already watched most of them. But I hadn't watched the last couple yet, and then there was the second half of the drop, so I watched most of those, like, on Thursday. And I just didn't hit up the last two in the episode list. One of those is the Honor of Kings short. Just because I was like, who is this video game? It's a MOBA, which is big in China. It's the international adaptation is Arena of Valor, if you've ever heard of that, but it's a Chinese MOBA that's published by, Tencent and developed by its own group, and I'm just like, I'll give it a pass. Maybe I'll check it out later. And then the last one is the weird PlayStation bundle short, which I didn't get into just because I'd heard that it was kind of, just kind of It's got a lot of PlayStation, moments in there. there's some Helldivers. Kratos has a cameo in that, and they did actually get that. I cannot imagine. They did get Christopher Judge out to do that. I cannot imagine instead of that call to Chris Judge, like, "Hey man, we needed you to do a wacky weird cameo in like basically like I assume a short that's about whether or not people liked it to see if they could get another PlayStation All-Stars together." The answer is probably not, because it did not seem super popular. But all the rest of the shorts I have watched. And I definitely feel like there's like multiple layers of discussion. I think you can like look at each short just purely on its own merits, sight unseen. In the case of a lot of some of these were for games that I've haven't played yet, or some of them I hadn't even like heard of in a long time. Some of them are unreleased. With the Exodus short, for instance, and obviously the secret heel turn on the Pac-Man Shadow Labyrinth. Which, by the way, is the original Wikipedia table of like saying what each property from was like Pac-Man, and now has added in parentheses Shadow Labyrinth. Now that we know it's an actual game,
Yeah.
But I also feel like there's almost like a like meta discussion we started having after the second one dropped, which is like, okay, so how did this get made? Like, because some of them feel like they're just very long trailers for games or like big press previews. Others actually seem like more normal animated shorts. Those I like to say are for I call them as, for the love of the game. Like, they're just made because somebody thought this process was neat. And some of them, I'm not even sure what they're getting at.
Some are just cash grabs, or
some of them are
they gave a Blur money. So Blur
like
had
some
to
of
make
them
it
were
short.
just the people making these had the check. I imagine that no specific call out to the games which are big in China. And actually, Crossfire, while it is big in China, is actually, I believe, made by a Korean studio. But I definitely feel like those two, the Crossfire and the Honor of Kings one, were just, hey, these games are huge in the Chinese market. Do you guys want to pay us money to make some shorts? And they were like, yes, we have unlimited money. But do we want to just like rattle off reviews kind of like episode by episode? Or
Yeah, let's go. Let's go down the list.
All right. Well, starting episode 1, that was Dungeons and Dragons: The Queen's Cradle.
I like to believe that this one is made with love. Dungeons and Dragons is an old as dick franchise, and while it has had a couple bad movies and one pretty okay movie, it's many people intro to the tabletop RPG line. Like for me personally, 3.0 and 3.5 was my entry into D&D and how I got started in tabletop as a whole. Not to mention that I don't think Dungeons and Dragons is necessarily doing a big media push on, like video franchise or video game franchises and whatnot. So I like to believe, personally, in my heart of hearts, that this one was done by Blur as, a message of love, as a send up to the great adventure that D&D is supposed to be.
And actually, I should also say this: while Blur like sponsored this whole thing, and I assume probably did a lot of coordinating, they had several studios working on them.
Mm-hmm.
The D&D short specifically was made by a studio named Unit Image, who are based in France.
And they did a very good job. The D&D one was very short, but it was very concise and sold what it wanted to do. Basically, an adventuring party went to go find a boy who basically had something very spooky in him and was to get it fucking exorcised. Had some heart-to-heart roleplay. That's how I know this fucking game ain't fucking real. People don't roleplay in Dungeons and Dragons. They just go to the next fucking fighting counselor.
If I mean, I like that this was part of the drama but like, if the weird NPC we rescued stabbed a party member, that guy's dead.
He's dead.
Like, I appreciate that they turned that into drama, but also, like, I know players. They're like, we can no longer trust this guy. Kill him. 1,000 years dungeon. But no, yeah, it's fairly well written. I believe the original, like, short story was written by an actual, like, speculative fiction author and then was adapted for TV. I didn't recognize her name, but she's got, an actual pretty normal, bibliography. So, like, story's pretty well rounded. It fits the timescale pretty good. I think the animation did a pretty good job of bringing D&D to life in a way that was very recognizably D&D.
Oh yeah.
Right down to even the weird frosty lich guy fucking counterspelling the caster. very annoying thing that's been people will recognize from fifth edition. I feel like has a lot of NPCs get counterspell on their spell list as well. So just we out here counterspelling. Monk did monk things very good.
Deflect arrow was great.
Yeah, your druid shapeshifted, did some druid stuff.
Yeah.
And of course the one normal arcane caster loves fire.
Guarding hand, baby.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't do Fireball, if only just because, how will you top Fireball? But also, the moment I saw that, I'm like, oh, Burning Hands, nice.
Actually, when did Slayers come out?
Ooh, baby. I don't know. Was that 80s?
Like,
I think it was.
That might have been 80s, but if we're talking about fucking remakes, give me a Slayers remake. Lena Inverse Fireball lives in my head rent-free. Like, I didn't think about it in the time, but...
So the novels were in the Japanese version of Dragon Magazine in 1989, basically light novel format. The anime's original run was 95.
Okay.
So it's a mid-90s anime.
Okay.
But I think Record of Lodos War might be older. This is actually a funny fact. I think in some interviews, the Critical Role team talked about how, like, the Legend of Vox Machina was like the first large scale animation made on a tabletop campaign. You got to put an asterisk on that in the West. Japan has been doing that for a lot longer. Though obviously
they've done multiple shows based on tabletop campaigns.
And honestly, in general, the concept of doing a light novel adaptation of your campaign setting, fictionalizing it, is a lot more common over there, and then naturally it can end up as a manga or anime. But yeah, no, overall the D&D one is good. I think it sets a very median tone. It's not super amazing, but it's not bad either. It's a nice standard to set. I think it was a good one to put in their first slot.
Yeah,
and there's a big reveal of Tiamat is the end, and then it ends with kind of the action cliffhanger, adventure continues type stuff. I like how they joke about finally finding their cleric.
Oh yeah,
like you said, I do get the feeling that one was written and animated, for the love of the product.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else to say about the Queen's Cradle?
No, I think it's good.
Yeah. So the next one was Sifu, It Takes a Life, animated by Digica Pictures in Hungary.
I'm not exactly...
Also do a lot of... they also animate a lot of cinematics similar to... and make a lot of game trailers similar to Blur.
So the Sifu one almost feels like a game promotion, I want to say. They basically took the essence of what Sifu is and boiled it down into, I do not remember how long it was, but into a smart thing, and they kind of omit the major story bits of it. Like in the short, they kind of make it out that it's one dude kind of who might have done this, but in the actual game, it's 5 or 6 dudes.
Yeah, the short is 15 minutes tops, and it's like you said, just a super compacted version of the game's story and mechanics. Basically, you watch the Sifu short, you know what Sifu's about in bare bones, and you can decide if you want to play that experience or not.
Yes. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure how this one in particular got funded. Someone might have really just liked Sifu and done it, because I do not imagine, I'm pretty sure that the developers that made Sifu did pretty good. I do think that Sifu was well regarded, and they are making their second game. I mean, their next game.
Yeah.
Which seems to be entertaining in its own right. I don't know if it was enough for, to hire out a studio to make a short. So
yes,
I'm thinking that
publisher is fairly small. I mean, somebody in that setup does have to have some amount of money. I realized this later, but they did announce their new soccer game, Sifu Soccer, as people are jokingly calling it, at the Game Awards, where trailers are pretty expensive to set up usually if you want to just buy ad space.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Jeff does just handpick some shit, so I don't know, because the developer Slowclap is truly independent. They have a publisher they work with, but in general they are a fairly compact studio who does small scale games usually.
Yeah. The Sifu one is strictly, again, alright. Honestly, I'm gonna say this for most of them. Most of them are alright. I don't think there's anything necessarily groundbreaking or amazing about these shorts. But I want to put this out here, and this is something I need to remind people, That's completely fine. Everything does not need to be a fucking amazing fucking animation, breaking the limits of current technology and blowing your mind away with the visuals.
Especially when we're talking about short form content. Like, I think too many people are getting too used to suckling at the teat of like streaming services or premium TV where you get like 8 episodes that are all an hour plus long. Hey, you know what the trade-off for that is, people at home? You gotta wait 2 years between seasons and it's only gonna be another 8 episodes. Like, this is a process where presumably these did take a while to make. Obviously, that's why Blur is very slow in releasing seasons of Love, Death, and Robots.
I gotta watch season 3.
I should just rewatch all of it sometime because it's rad. But
it is rad.
Yeah, that takes them a while to put together, obviously, and get all those animators cranking. But in general, this is already. We should preface this by saying a season 2 has already been greenlit. Like, this apparently did well enough for Amazon, like got enough views and stuff that they are actually like.
It was trending at number 1 or number 2.
Yeah.
For them,
people are like Amazon clearly got what they wanted out of this to go to back that. But like, when you're producing like anthology type content, they don't have to be all bangers because they're not all the same. Like, these are not, what is it? How many episodes? 16? 15. So this is not a 15 episode TV series where like all of these have to link up with each other. These are 15 individual shorts where I'm presuming the general idea of like why the creators and investors and stuff are going is because they want to show you this short and get you interested in the product. Whether that's just because they think it's neat or because it's actually part of their marketing budget, we can debate about that with the way some of these are formatted. But generally the idea is show you a brief thing. Some of you are going to go, ooh, cool. And then, presumably look more into the property. They don't all gotta be like great. Some of these are really good, like very well made, very good looking. But most of them are just, as I said, normal, median, average to above average. But that's okay. You can't get 10 out of 10 for everything all the time. And also, honestly, even when stuff is like super highly regarded and like 10 out of 10s or whatever, even then, discourse being the way it is, usually people have something to contentions about it.
Oh yeah, no, trust me. I've seen a fair amount of people just saying that Secret Level was boring and uninspired. I'm just all like, what did you want out of this?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like. I mean, we will say this. We talked about this in our pre-show segment. When the big executive producer and head behind this, Tim Miller, came out from Blur. He was like very emotionally overcome. So I don't know, like maybe people were thinking that like the shorts were supposed to be like more emotionally impactful to the audience. I don't think that's why he was emotional. I think he was emotional because they got to produce the show itself as kind of a love letter to video games. They got to do a video game anthology series where fucking Capcom, Sony, Bamco, fucking Wizards and Games Workshop, like, are all on the same billing, Like, that shit would be unheard of in, like, the 90s and the 80s of video games. Hell, I think even 10 years ago you couldn't have pulled off some of this shit.
Yeah.
But now we're in a different, like, world where a lot of these groups feel like they can spin this. Technically, you have, like, PlayStation, like, owned, Sony owned products, and there is an Obsidian-based short in this. Obsidian is owned by Microsoft, by the way. Now, Microsoft is moving away from their exclusivity, but Obsidian is still one of the Xbox studios. Not that means anything as much anymore, but so, it's, like, that shit absolutely would have been unheard of 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, I think the project itself is, like, what he's super invested in, and I think is very cool that this exists. And yes, some of them are not going to be as punchy, but yeah, I don't know. I also think that some people, I understand that our real life is, real spooky, scary, and full of dumb bullshit, that's getting dumber all the time. Google is like literally walking back their commitment to be carbon neutral because of the amount of emissions they have to put out to generate more AI that I know none of you, the customers, asked for. The water people, I don't like, it's not being made a big deal of. The water usage on AI is bad, like for water cooling and stuff to make this shit work. We're already probably going to have a water crisis in some places because of the climate change. Now it's the most like bullshit 80s exaggerated story plot ever, but I bet you're gonna hear in 10 to 20 years that like there are gonna be places in the Midwest which are gonna be turned to deserts to fucking feed Google and Apple and other places AI farms so that somebody can generate that one stupid image of like Trump holding up a bunny or whatever. It's dumb. It's very dumb. You literally cannot make this shit up. But at the same time, I think people are too cynical that they're like, it's just a cash grab. Look how soul this is, man. It's like, what has soul to you? What would be the soulful version of this? Because some of these, like I said, are absolutely made with love.
This is me being cynical about cynical people, but, you know, it's whatever conforms to whatever agenda they spout.
Yeah. The thing is, though, some cynics at least don't really present an agenda. I guess they're just being sour grapes. They're salty and they want other people to be salty, and I'm like, no, I require some joy. But yeah, so the Sifu one, again, perfectly fine. Like, not super impressive, but I think it accomplished its goal pretty good. It does, compress the old story.
They compress the story, and something I think I enjoyed is that they actually did use like the animation style from the game. So
yeah,
it was another level of immersion, I guess I would say.
Yeah. And like I said, I think they do a very good job of like boiling down the conflict of the game into the short. You know, it's like the main character starts, super young eating dumplings, and then as we suck up the magical MacGuffin, he gets older and older and returns at the end, and it's like, yeah, it's like that. So the next one, New World, Once the Future King is the title. This one is based off of Amazon's
New World Eternium.
Yeah, New World Eternium, the MMO of guilt-free colonization, because it's literally it's supposed to be set in the real-life age of Discovery, but it's on a magical island where when you go there you become immortal, which is like actually part of the thing the short is doing.
Yeah. So I want to say, like right off the bat, this one was clearly a cash grab, but I think they had fun making it, which I think is the important bit. Because, like I said, I don't know how many people are out there playing a New World Eternium, and saying this is the best thing ever. But I think the way that they presented it was very humorous, and they've added a little bit of story and morality to it. It wasn't just, hey, look at this game, please play it.
Yeah, like honestly, I don't actually think much of the short, other than like explaining this, like the setting, does a lot to like make you think about gameplay. Really, there's a little bit, like eventually the main character, King Aelstrom,
played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, being his best himbo.
Yes, the classic Arnold. Like at some point he takes up blacksmithing, and like he goes into the like woods to find dark magic loot and stuff, and presumably like fight bosses. So like there's little allusions to things, but generally it's just kind of vibes based. But what I kind of realized, like after watching it and thinking back, because at first I was just kind of like, I was thinking to myself, yeah, that's all right. It's also not terrible, but not super great. And there were parts of it that I did find funny. But I was thinking about it later, I'm like, actually, though, I think this is impressive in a different way, because I think the writers and animators on this really did the best they could with what they had, because they had Amazon's weird, like I said, MMO set in a fictional New World island that blew up pretty big when it first started, but I think really fell off after that initial wave. Like, obviously, I'm pretty sure it still has players and people going back, and they've done some big updates, but Amazon, I think, went pretty ham on the marketing push, and then, as a lot of things, when you buy a lot of that initial hype, it fell off naturally when the game wasn't as impressive.
Yeah.
But the short team, this was, again, Unit Image. The animators and the directors and writers did probably the best they could with what they got. I'm finding this interesting. The Wikipedia has access to the production codes for several of these.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones that are reported, the New World short is actually the latest. It's number 118. Yeah, I'm not seeing a later number, so that makes me wonder if, like, we'll see when they publish all of them, but maybe that was a late ad by Amazon when they decided to publish the show, like, to release the show. Number 101 is the Warhammer short, 102 is the Unreal short. That makes me seem that those were definitely early picks of the project, which makes a lot of sense.
Both of those, I think, were probably picked for love.
Yeah. And it's shown in the quality. Anything else to say about New World? Because those are the next two shorts as well.
No, like I said, like I didn't know anything about New World. I kind of forgot about it even as it existed. But it made me chuckle, it made me laugh, and it made me go, "Aw," at the end, which I think is good.
Yeah, very solid stuff. Like I said, this is another one that I think some people are kind of cynical about because they probably know more about the game and its shortcomings. I don't know. I just remember that it came out and then the people stopped playing, but they had some updates, so I don't know. And I'm just like, yeah, seems normal. That means the next one is Unreal Tournament Zan.
This one is my personal favorite.
Yeah. This is a really good one. It was done in-house by Blur. It is one of the longer shorts.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 16 or 17 minutes of actual time. And yeah, I agree with Lucky. Even after I watched it, when I think you said that out of the first batch it was your favorite. This is probably the one I would rate overall the best, like in all aspects.
Yes. So Unreal Tournament is like an old 90s fucking, FPS shooter that didn't have necessarily a lot of story and a lot of going on, but everyone kind of fucking played it. This is where you got icons like double kill, ultra kill, and other such 90s thing. So for them to basically take that and turn it into a full on short that has like a beginning with what's the term I want to use when your protagonist finds their reason to fight or something.
Yeah, I don't think it's got the full hero's journey hallmarks, but no, it has an inciting incident, right? Like
inciting incident. Yes,
it has a prologue, a soft start where our little mining robot is minding his own business, but he's being abused by the system.
The mining robot eventually rises up. That gets all the mining robots imprisoned, and they are being basically slowly executed on a basically prisoner game show. I don't want to not game show
I mean, it's literal blood sports.
Bloodsport. Thank you.
Yeah, it is a televised and in-person arena fight. Which obviously makes sense from the Unreal system.
Yeah, and about Zan, that's what people start calling him. Slowly figuring out how things work and fighting to free himself. It's it's really good because like I said, you can go into this, not know anything about Unreal Tournament, not that there's necessarily a lot to know, and come away with a complete story. We have a solid beginning, opening, we have a good, climactic battle.
You actually have characters.
Yes.
Which are illustrated very simply through just actions and dialogue. They don't need a lot of really big character elements. Mm-hmm. I will say that the fucking the fucking hacker kid's a fucking sleeper agent for the robots. Because there's no, with how mean that CEO lady was, there's no way that guy's level of incompetence got that far. He's either got to be somebody's nephew or kid, or he's a sleeper.
I'm pretty sure it was the latter. I mean, the former.
Yeah, because that guy was terrible at his job. Also, shout out to, I don't remember his name, but the Captain of the Guard was played by Gideon Emery, voice actor of note. They have a lot of good voice actors for all this. The announcer voice was the classic Fred Tescatore.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's the thing. So, not only does this have the classic, like an actual story arc to it, you get to see the intro, the build-up, you actually get multiple action sequences and set pieces, montages and stuff. Excellent use of montages overall. But also it has nods to the game. There's fucking deployable cover and jump pads. There is because it's actually in an arena being televised, they have the fucking announcer voice saying the things, revenge, double kill, all that stuff. And it has, a bunch of Unreal Tournament guns, normal assault rifle, sniper rifle. There's a fucking joke about camping. Everything. So, obviously, it also presents the feel of this game world. And I think it does it correctly because they didn't have to do anything in, they didn't have to do, the something that, the Doom movie did where they're like, all right, now time for the first-person sequence.
Yes, I remember that.
No, they just did the animation in the universe and it worked. It was good. So yeah, had a lot of real strong stuff.
So yes, it was my fave.
Yeah, like I said, I think the best overall. Because the next one, number 5, is the one that a lot of people are saying was their favorite. Though we'll explain, I think, the reasons why. Which is the Warhammer 40k short, which should be labeled specifically the Space Marine or Space Marine 2 short. But anyway, and They Shall Know No Fear. This was another direct at Blur. Though I'm sure that they worked with Games Workshop on this, and I gotta show you Astartes sometime. This has all the hallmarks of that guy. Astartes is a fan animation series by a specific animator. I don't remember his name, but he was eventually hired by Games Workshop. That is all about faceless, nameless Space Marines doing tactical Space Marine shit. There is, like, basically no dialogue throughout the entire animation because he was just an animator. Like, I don't think he had any voice actors to call on initially. There's almost no explanation of the plot or anything. It's just, fucking, like I said, Space Marines doing really Space Marine stuff with a little bit of psychic weirdness at the end.
Yeah.
So
like, I do want to say, the 40k one, visually, amazing. Like, stunning. Action, amazing. But the problem is that it's 40k. And if you don't understand 40k, you will have no idea what's going on. You will just see 4 dudes being really cool and badass.
And it's one of those things of, like, do you really need to know more to get what's going on? Not really, but I do think a lot of viewers are probably going to be kind of like, well, what's that then? Like,
that was me.
Because the layout's pretty normal, it starts with, like, a flashback to the sergeant, giving you, like, some of the most dialogue in the short of just explaining, hey, in the grimdark future, there's only war. Like, he has a speech about, like, how they make Space Marines, we find them when they're young, we carve away the fear, etc. And then he talks about how, hey, I met a kid who had no fear once, and of course it is Lieutenant Titus, which is fair. It makes sense because, like, that's the thing about Titus is that, like, he is the most unflappable Space Marine man ever. So much so that, like, that's actually a plot point in the games that, like, his own fellow Space Marines don't trust him because he is so unflappable. He cannot be flapped. But, like, the basics are just, they show, a bunch of mission text, very similar to how the intros of both Space Marine games go, where they're just like, you've got a mission. Priority, super mega high. Likelihood of death, yes. And then they pick, they assign the Sergeant Metaurus, one named character and 2 nameless guys. So, like, the setup kind of gives you the general vibe when you just see that little text screen, but it's like, then they just, we get a lot of, Latin chanting, and we suit up in our armor, we put all our stuff in, we don't talk after this, we just roll out, get shot out of a drop pod, and then it's just action, baby.
No, the action is great. Just 4 dudes walking through the canyon as I learned that they were cultists later, because guess what? I had no idea who these dudes were. They were just there, and then they came screaming at Space Marines, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna die. Why are they doing this? I didn't know.
Yeah, I think the only clue in the actual short itself is they say, step 1, destroy the apostate relic. So, like, there's something religious in there if you're, making sure to read all the text on the screen because it's not spoken out loud. But yeah, no, like, it's one of those things where, like, well, you wouldn't know they were Chaos Cultists unless you know that 40k is a setting where, yeah, there's Chaos Cultists who do look like Mad Max rejects. Because
today I learned
40k is inordinately obsessed with bikes. No, seriously, Space Marines have Space Marine-sized motorbikes with guns on them. Why?
Rad.
Because it was made by, British subculture guys of the 80s. We want sick motorbikes. But yeah, no, and then it's just, like, all action. And it's really, like, visually striking.
So good.
And the sound design is really good because, like, they do a lot with silence. Like, they will literally deaden the battle noise to make it sound more silent and oppressive, and it really works. And then, they go below into this weird hole, and they fight some demon-type guys with this neon blue blood, and it's like, again, visuals, perfect. Such good interplay. Like that. But like I said, I was watching this, and I'm thinking back later, I'm like, then they start, walking into a spooky library, and there's a weird bird statue, and I'm like, this is not for anybody who doesn't know what 40k is. Like, nope.
Yep. Completely lost.
Nobody is gonna get this shit. Like, the only part that actually matters is that you understand that something freaky and or geeky is going on, but, like,
yes. I
Even
assumed that it was
so-
like some sort of force of chaos and or demon, but I was like, I
Yeah.
don't actually get it.
But yeah, and then yeah. And specifically, this was the flavor of chaos, which is the one that's about the weird mystical crap. Because, there's 4 factions of chaos. They probably could have gotten away with the anger screaming blood for the blood god guys, but then they couldn't do the weird psychological attack at the end.
Isn't that Slanish? No.
No, Slanish is purple, and they're about excess, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Oh, that's
Zeech is the
Slanish.
one who's about magic and change and weird mind shit. And he's
Like,
blue.
you have to forgive Lucky. I am not super up on my 40k lore. I get it all through osmosis.
What? You mean you can't rattle off the names like Korn and Nurgle and Slaanesh and Zeech, which has a TZ in it?
Yes, Lucky has no problems admitting his fucking failures.
Yeah, it's okay. I was being sarcastic. I'm throwing shade at Games Workshop. Like I said, Games Workshop never meant something they didn't want to turn into a trademarkable name.
Nurgle, Korn, Sunish, Saint. I'll try to remember.
But yeah, no, and like they fucking pulled the psychic guy out of a box who's missing his eyeballs, and that's another thing that I'm just like, I think.
Yeah, I had no idea it was this comic. Then the dude popped up, I'm like, who's this fucker? But then he did the barrier, and I was like, oh, he's protecting them from the forces of chaos. That much I can grok.
And they
But,
probably
like,
kept him in the
until-
fucking coffin because they needed to make sure he survived the squishy trip down.
Well, no, it's because he's a fucking psyker, and he can't be trusted otherwise.
Also true. And
I
honestly,
remember this.
probably the stuff inside there was made to also keep him safe from extra psychic vibes until they needed to use him.
Yeah.
I did like the note where you see earlier the Space Marine armor covered in their little wax and tablet. Those are called purity seals.
Yeah.
And they just start burning away when shit gets bad.
I didn't actually fully understand what this, but I just know that when they start burning, that probably means they're in the bad juju land.
Yeah, like I said, the visuals are really striking, and you can follow what's going on without knowing anything, but also, like, a lot is just not there. So, like I said, that probably was a labor of love by people who really like 40k, because if you don't... Basically, when...
I'm gonna be real. I think why people, like, I don't mean to cut you off, but I do want to get this thought out. I do think I do think the reason why people love this one so much is that they are starved for good 40k animation.
Yes, that was something I've said as well. Is like, this is... I put it in some perspective for you like a week ago or earlier. This is probably the coolest 40k branded project that is like this... Well, first of all, I think this is the only thing of its kind, like, actually. Like, they have done a few animated shorts, but they are almost always, like, 5 to 10 minutes tops, and are usually, like, promo trailers for, like, we're releasing a new special event box or something. Get this special collection. Sisters of Battle versus Necrons. That kind of shit. They look good, but they're basically, extra big toy commercials, where, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. While the, like, narrative of this one is very loosey-goosey, this is probably the few times they've actually done this. And honestly, Games Workshop, you should fucking follow up on this if you can. Like, they could make their own nothing but, 15 to 20 minute anthology animation series. Because their codexes, their rulebooks are full of, like, microfiction, right? Like, 1 or 2 page short stories to, like, give you vibes.
Vibes.
That would absolutely work really well, because, like, I'm thinking already, recently it was announced, like Henry Cavill came back out of the writing dungeon to be like, hey, by the way, I'm still working on the live-action 40k thing with Amazon. I genuinely do not know how they're going to handle that, right? Because I think for an actual live-action, like, probably, like, 8 to 10 episode series, boy, that first episode's going to have to be fucking loaded, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Not that, because you usually don't sit down and watch live action, but hypothetically, if they were to try and get you to sit down and watch live action TV, they would have to feed you a lot to get you invested in this universe, because 40k is big, but it's still niche. Like, they're not gonna get their return on money just from 40k fans. They're gonna need to, like, try and use this as a hook to get people into the war games and the other shit, the novels and so on, and, like, they're gonna have to work at it,
Yeah, no, like, I will probably never ever probably play Warhammer 40k. Probably never ever. Like, I do not have the time, nor the patience, nor I probably do have people I could actually play with in real life, but,
I mean, we could always run TTS, but also, like, God, fucking, they change the rules every 2 to 5 years too.
Yeah,
like
but
it's
like, I know enough people who like it that, I have a passing interest in at least understanding what's going on. So when they do come out with the 40K TV show, I will probably try and take a look at it. But if they don't, explain things to me enough in, the first couple episodes, I'm just be like, I'm completely lost. This is for people who already know 40K, and I'm just gonna go wander off somewhere. And that's the thing. You're gonna have to explain all of 40K, not all of it, but all the relevant bits to the story in the story, and not rely on it being an already known quantity. Like I said, and they shall know no fear is very good. Like I said, if I knew 40K and all that crazy stuff, it probably might have made it to my number 1. Maybe. I don't know, but I didn't. I'm just like, okay, cool boys are cool.
Yeah.
So,
and I gotta say, like I said, while it does make Space Marines correctly look like the Billy badasses they are, 2 of them still dropped. It's that they couldn't put out a short with 4 Ultramarines and not kill a couple of them, even though, as I said in the pre-show, those guys were supposed to be fucking veteran Stern Guard or Blade Guard or something. Those guys probably cost you, a fucking arm and the leg and army points to field all 4 of them.
Listen, what are you gonna do when you get a demon that just kind of stops time, I guess?
You get a time stop and a mind attack and you fail your morale check. Keel over.
You just fucking die.
Your brain explodes. Very correct to 40K psychic powers, by the way. Even Space Marines, usually, when they directly eyeball warp shit, are just like, my brain has exploded. Goodbye.
No, but I do
cinematography
want to say,
in
I
this
think,
time is really
the
good, but-
Warhammer one is, my 3rd favorite.
Yeah, it's a super strong one, but like I said, it's... Even I, knowing a lot about 40K, and knowing enough to have my bones to pick with the setting, and, God knows you will never hear me shill for Games Workshop. They better start writing me checks if they want that shit. Which they won't, because they love money. Getting my shots in. But, the setting and the universe still has a lot of, potential and a load of history behind it. Genuinely, I think that, not a lot of people realize how impactful, the actual concept of Space Marines are on, lots of mass media. Because, like I said, those guys were, squat little power armor, shooty shoot boys in the late 80s, before Doom Guy kind of came on the scene. I think genuinely a lot of our idea of what space guy protagonists are comes from that. Definitely, I know that armored guys in StarCraft are definitely ripping off 40K Space Marines and a lot of other stuff. But there's a lot going on. But yeah, so the next one was Pac-Man: The Circle.
This one was interesting, and rightly so, it confused a lot of people. Now, I don't want to say it's bad. It's very interesting. But out of context, it makes no goddamn sense, and it's just kind of horror fuel.
Yeah, I think that's the main issue is just that, and I see why people were confused and even upset when they showed the trailer and when the short initially came out. Because it looks like it is we're doing an edgy reboot of Pac-Man for no reason. We're making the Pac a guy. But actually, like I said, I had a weird experience watching this after the trailer for Shadow Labyrinth came out. Realizing that they're making a Metroidvania looking game, and again, probably a roguelike, because it does seem like there is a dying and resetting mechanic. This perfectly gives you the vibes you want from that, and also I think matches the art style of that perspective game very well. There are dangerous creatures you gotta look out for, there are fucking environments to explore and stuff, and you have to defeat enemies to grow stronger. No, it makes sense in that retrospect, but also, when you don't have that context, like you said, it's just weird. It's not bad, I want to say, it's just different. And that definitely, I think, gave some people the question of well, why did we make this weird thing and call it Pac-Man? Well, the answer is because they're making a weird thing Pac-Man video game. Yeah, the extra lives effect. I love that there was the cherries in the intro that he eats, and he's just kind of weird. Also, shout out to Alex Lay, who
yes.
voiced the Chosen. He's getting a lot of work these days, but he did a pretty good crack at bringing that voice to life, and also had to fucking scream his mind out.
Oh yeah.
it now makes sense that somebody pointed this out to me, but I did not realize it. Yeah, that's right. He's Sonon in the Yuffie DLC and when the flashbacks in Rebirth.
Yep,
he's doing good work. He's a great guy. Really killed it as the P3 Reload protagonist in the extra levels there. But yeah, so no, like I said, I don't hate the short. Like some people did seeing it, or some people did seeing just the trailer for the short, not even watching the short yet. Generated a lot of controversy. But like I said, it is still weird and kind of like vaguely sci-fi horrorcore.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm pretty sure that's what that new game is going to be like. So yeah, I mean, no, it's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Like I said, probably not my top, but definitely probably somewhere towards the middle.
No, it's definitely interesting, but again, I have no.
I mean,
but, like,
it's about Pac-Man, right? Like, I don't have a dog in the fight. That's you eat the pips and you scare away the ghosts, you know?
Everything but their eyes. The thing playing the Pac-Man Puck, as it was suitably creepy, and I enjoyed that.
Yes. That, acted by, Emily Swallow, who apparently also has a lot of live-action, TV roles. Oh, she's also the VA for the Armorer from The Mandalorian. Cool. She puts on a fake British accent in The Mandalorian, but that's okay. We like the Armorer in this house. Because she's a Mandalorian woman who makes armor and also beat up some stormtroopers with a hammer.
That sounds pretty rad. I love her already.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, here, let me explain to you why I think this character's neato. She makes armor. She's a Mandalorian, so she's wearing cool armor. Her armor has like a fur trim on it, and like I said, she beats up guys with a blacksmith hammer. We're good. We need no more.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting to me that she is more traditionally a TV actress with only a couple of like minor video game roles. But then number 7 was Crossfire, Good Conflict. I kind of feel the same way about this one as I do about the New World one. It's inessential, but it wasn't poorly made.
No.
Like, I think the action was actually good. Like, I was actually, like, paying attention to the action scenes. But when the characters were talking, it got me, like, not quite to eye-rolling, but a little close, because it's like...
We're not the bad guys. We're the good guys.
Yeah, you're both mercenaries who shoot people for money. Which I assume is the whole point of a game named Crossfire, which is a multiplayer shooter that's very popular in East Asia. So, like, yeah, no shit. But at the same time, that's why I say I feel kind of the same way I do about the New World, where I think the animators and writers did the best they could, and unlike New World, which went kind of like a character-focused, like, get you some goofs and gaffs and maybe get you a little heartwarming at the end. They were just like, we have nothing but action. There is nothing else in this multiplayer first-person shooter to work with.
Like, if you like being tactical and being military, yeah, sure. I guess the Crossfire the Crossfire short was okay, but again, like, I had no bone in that fight one way or another.
Oh no, yeah, like I said, the stakes of the fight were just like, yeah, there's the Weasley guy with the case, and then like the moment like. In the first fight, one guy from one team goes down, and then all the guys on that squad are pissed off, and then in the second later fight, one of the guys on the other team goes down, and then they get all pissed off, and I'm just like, I mean, yeah, no, like, that doesn't make me go, oh, how dramatic. I'm just like, oh no, this is gonna get, they've double made it personal, this is gonna get stupid now. And yes, the characters were on purpose boneheaded about stuff. But like, yeah, no, like I said, the choreography and the way they designed the action scenes is very high quality. Like, they did some fun stuff with, like, vehicle fights and short gun battles. I mean, I have to say, the faceless sniper rifle guy was fucking on crack. I think they said it was, like, he was, like, a couple of clicks away, as they're firing, like, at a moving target on a highway while a hurricane is, about to make landfall, and he got some... no kills, but got some hits on that vehicle. I'm like, that guy's fucking cracked out.
Great,
he's got
actually.
the battlefield reflexes.
Well, no, it was actually good. He actually did lead the shot, so...
Yeah, I know, but it's he would lead the shot and, like, accounted for windage, like, super fast, and it's like, that guy's crazy good, but... I
usually have a spotter and a computer for that shit.
Yeah.
Especially modern times, but hey.
It's, like I said, whatever. He's got the first-person shooter reflexes. It's like,
he has the juice.
It's the kind of show where, like, if you played Crossfire or a game like it, you want to imagine yourself as those guys, right? Like, they do cool vehicle shit, they're sniping, they're having close-range gun battles. At one point, there's, like, some booby traps with, like, look like white phosphorus and, like, smoke grenades and shit and chaff,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would love to see, like, the full staff on that of, like, who they got to, like, design that choreography. But like I said, just the story and the dialogue is just, like, such a generic action movie. Like, it could have been replace that animation with real life actors. That could have been a movie made like any point from the year 2000 on.
It's true.
It's
I didn't realize that, but it's true.
No, it feels like sadly so generic. Like, I got nothing about the actual like Crossfire game out of it. So, again, kind of like, honestly, probably as a result on the lower end, because I'm like, well, it wasn't like bad, but it didn't bring, a crazy amount there.
I'm gonna be honest, I kind of wish we didn't have it and we put the minutes that we had in it and put them into some of these other shorts.
Yeah, definitely I feel like, I may have preferred, let me see if I can find, what did that studio work on? Actually, weird. Let me double check. So that was by Plattige Image, a studio from Poland. I think that was the only short they worked on. So yeah, definitely keeps to some of those weird vibes we talked about, where like I feel like just like maybe it was Amazon or maybe it was Blur, but like somebody started calling up video game studios with a lot of money, and the Crossfire guys. That's, let me make sure to get their name correctly. Yeah, that's Smilegate out of Korea is the original publisher, though the Chinese version is published through Tencent. But like they just called those guys up and they were like, "Yes, our video game makes billions of dollars here," and just produce the end result, because it again, like, it fits obviously with Secret Level because it's a short that's about a video game. Probably, I don't know anything about Crossfire, so like I said, you could lie to me and say that it was just an action movie spec script. But it is kind of like in a weird spot where like that was the only short that studio worked on, and like the writers weren't with a teleplay or short story writers for any of the other projects. It just kind of was out there, and like I said, I do think it's kind of inessential. Like, the concept of Secret Level as a TV product would not be hurt if you just cut Crossfire out completely. And let me see. Honestly, I think it was one of the more medium to longer ones, probably like maybe 15-ish minutes overall. If you gave those 15 minutes to some of these other shorts, including our next one, that would probably be better, because the next one is, well, the last one of the first block, Armored Core Asset Management. Shout out, by the way, to Digic Pictures, the Hungary studio. They also did the Sifu one I mentioned, but they also did this one.
Oh,
Huge
really?
art style shift. Like, I assume that From and Bandai Namco just handed them some high-quality asset rips, because, damn, those robots looked good.
Yeah, they did.
But this is another one that I feel like is only not at my top tier, because it's a little too short.
Yes.
It introduces a conflict and then kind of resolves it without resolving anything. I mean, it sure is a, 10 or 12 minute short that's an Armored Core mission.
Yeah, it is.
And they do a decent amount of world building. Like, they do the classic gag of, like, by the way, Keanu Reeves, perfect casting, no notes. He plays a weird, traumatized addict badass very well.
Mm-hmm.
He's Keanuing it up. But like, he's in the bar, like, listening to voices in his head and stuff, and like has a PTSD episode and attacks a guy, and like the kid literally is the name of that character. Like, has to get explained by the character named the Old Salt, played by Tamara Morrison. Just explain, like, oh, he's like he was the last generation of AUG. He's like not all there mentally, but he's crazy in a robot. You know how they say, if you want to come out of the core, you got to leave something outside of the core. Well, he's the reverse, like classic exposition speak, but it works very well to establish how other characters, see him. And then he has a weird voice in his head, which is very Armored Core. I've played a decent amount of 6. And like I said, watching this short did make me want to go back and play it again. I think the only reason why I didn't is I was like, I have to reinstall. But like, the actual, like, I mean, first of all, I think it captures something that Armored Core is known for, which is like, mechs are not a toy. Like, when Keanu goes in the tank, he has to, like, run, like, obviously get, like, Matrix style plug suit into his spine, or the rat's whiskers from IBO, but he also has to, like, run a fucking IV drip and, look like a stomach pump line and shit like that, and electroshocks, like, he has to really plug in there in a very personal way. But I love the cockpit design with all the fucking, like, extra keypads and flip switches and shit. No, like, visually a treat. And the action is, like I said, like pitch perfect. Fight some mooks, fight some cores, fight a big boss fight with the big scary guy. Shout out to Energy Sword run. And then, like I said, there's we go in through and they're like, yes, these guys are augmented like you. And then, Keanu's like, nobody's like me. And then it ends, and I'm just like, cool. I would have liked more of that. And I specifically for Armored Core, I feel bad that, like, when am I going to get that resolution? I'm pretty sure FromSoft is, releasing, Night Rain. Are they going to release an update to Armored Core 6? Are we going to port old Armored Core games, Bandai Namco? Like, how am I supposed to get my fix on that? I don't know. It's, like I said, it's one that's weird because, like, it is a good encapsulation of what Armored Core is about. And I think specifically the mech designs and, like, the aesthetics of the Ice Planet were very Armored Core 6. But, like, what am I supposed to do with this now that I've watched this short, There's no catharsis. I've already bought Armored Core from Soft. I keep giving you money even though I never finish your games. Stop, please. But yeah, like I said, I still liked it, but it was definitely one of the ones that I could feel the shortened runtime in. But yeah, that was the last one of Phase 1.
Unfortunately, I have not watched all of Phase 2, so I'm going to have to...
As I said, I did not watch the last two, because those were kind of the ones that were more out of it. I did get as far as the Concord one, because I had to see. But we'll continue to do it in order. Outer Worlds, Company We Keep. Another one that's pretty good. It's just, having actually played the Outer Worlds, I know that one was not as widely bought into some other Obsidian works, but no, that's just the game do be like that. If you think it's crazy that this, illiterate, malnourished orphan is, scrapping and, fighting sprats for his nutrient goo, no, that's that game. That's what it's like. It's the whole point of Outer Worlds is it's kind of a like sci-fi corporate hellhole because they launched some colony ships and the only people who woke up were the corporate executives.
Yep.
And, like, working class people. None of the, like, scientists and leaders and, really, really high talented people made it correctly. So it's like their balance of people is all super screwed up. And, but our little guy, Amos, Orphan Amos, has a dream to see his childhood friend Felicity. And he signs on with a corporate testing job, and he's real gung-ho about it, even though it costs him all of his limbs. And, it has, like some back and forth there, and it has heart in it. Like, honestly, the only reason why I'm probably giving this one a little more leeway is, like I said, because I played Outer Worlds and did like it. I feel like, honestly, the way it's composed is much more in the tier of like the New World or like the Crossfire one, where it's like, I mean, if you know, you know, but if not, it's just kind of a fairly normal story package. Maybe a little more biting with like they did get, felt free to get into some of the like gore and not quite body horror, but like some serious damage stuff with, like him losing all of his limbs and shit. They don't show too much of it, but, they get a little in there. But fairly well made. Sorry, I've just looked at the credits. It was made by Goodbye Kansas Studios, who are ironically from Sweden. But yeah, it was all right. Like I said, I liked it, but also it was just kind of like, yep, that's Outer Worlds.
I have nothing to add here.
Yeah. Then number 10, the second one in this drop, Mega Man Start. Yeah. This one, in a similar way to 40K, would probably be my number one if it weren't so short. Like, the actual runtime is only like maybe 10 minutes tops. But like, otherwise, no, this one's great. Like, the animation's very, very high quality, and it does an in media res on like Dr. Wily doing shenanigans. And no, it's pretty spot on. I like that, like, they're already at a point in the story where they're starting by activating Bomb Man, and Rock is like, Dr. Light, no, Bomb Man?
Yeah, because I think he said he took out, was it Cut Man?
Yes.
Earlier, yeah.
And I think Cut Man might actually be weak to the bombs. It's that or Guts. But, like, if you know the Mega Man backstory, all of the original bosses, the Robot Masters, were robots that Dr. Light built with Dr. Wily for industrial purpose. Bomb Man is supposed to be, like, a demolition machine. But obviously, because he's designed to blow up buildings, I can see why Dr. Light would be activating him last. But no, he gets hijacked, but then, Rock wants to fight. He shows some cool tool arm stuff.
No, it's good. Like, it's just good. Like, how do I explain this? It seems like a proto pilot for a series.
Yeah, no, like it sets up the characters you need to know. You don't even see Dr. Wily, but you know he's bad. You've got Rock, you've got Dr. Light. You understand their relationship, immediately. Dr. Light talks about how, like, no, I made you to help, and Rock's like, yeah, you made me to help, to fight, and and it has like that, microcosm of like, Dr. Light is like, no, you can help, and now we're gonna Mega Man ties you. And they play like the classic, Mega Man lead up sting. Like I said, they use some remix of like Wily Stage Number 1, the iconic one from Mega Man 2. Because the Mega Man series has a really great music. Like, they pull the music stings, but they end it with he steps on the teleporter pad and gets ready to put his hat on, and then it's over, and I'm just like, aw. Like, no, absolutely, like, Capcom has been saying recently, especially with the Okami revival, they are interested in reactivating their old IPs, is how they phrased it. Which makes total sense with Okami and Onimusha and stuff, but like, hey, Capcom, if you're interested in this, I know that the like old school Mega Man animated series was like kind of is a joke now. If you see, like, there's some old school YouTube posts about it, and it's like the PS2 Mega Man Anniversary Collection. By the way, they've been doing Mega Man Anniversary Collection since the PS2. That's how old the series is. That had the like original first episode of that, and it's like very like it's got to be 90s camp, but it's like it's in that style. It like super fighting robot Mega Man, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So like it's like very corny, obviously, and outdated, but you've got room for a series here, and like they could do it. Like Mega Man's a really weird setting because the classic Mega Man games, like, they have all these story bones in them, but they're on like the NES and the Super Nintendo, so it's like a very small amount of dialogue and buried in like the manuals to the games, but they've got narrative compulsion there, right? Mega Man goes out, he has to fight the original 6, he, starts upgrading himself all the way, defeat Dr. Wily, but he can't bring himself to kill Dr. Wily ever, so Dr. Wily goes to jail and escapes, etc. Dr. Wily tricks other robot designers besides Dr. Light like 4 or 5 times to get more Robot Masters. But no, there's like great character stuff. Like I could totally see, the sub-arc of Dr. Light going, well, I need an assistant in my lab. What can I do? Ah, yes, roll. Because I do actually think that's the order. It's technically Dr. Light builds Blues, who becomes Proto Man first. Then he builds Rock, and lastly he builds Roll after he decides to turn Rock into Mega Man. But no, there's like they got the stuff here, and I mean Capcom's not averse to it because the Mega Man Battle Network anime ran for quite a lot of seasons and series. So let's give some hope that they do something. But yeah, like I said, this would probably be my number one if it wasn't short. It's a short because like the art style really clicks. Like I said, they got the sound cues, they got all the visual gags you want. And who is it? Rick Overton was Dr. Light's VA. Perfect notes.
Yeah, no, actually, now I think about the voice acting was very good.
Yeah, I mean, technically, I think in the original NES game, Dr. Wily took over all 6 of the Robot Masters at once, because, they worked together, but Dr. Wily was evil. Why? Have you seen his hair? I don't think they've ever explained why Dr. Wily is such an asshole. I'm going to say canonically it's because of his hairline.
He's jealous of Dr. Locke and his full head of hair. Dr.
And
Light and his full head.
Oh, did they finally come up with something in Mega Man 11? Okay.
Yeah, Mega Man 11.
Which is a retro title. Like, that's a modern game they made to the retro style. That's so funny to me that it took them that long. Like, in Battle Network, they actually have an explanation for why that Dr. Wily is evil. It's because Battle Network is basically an alternate universe where instead of robotics, magical internet technology took off. The original Dr. Wily was still a roboticist, and he was mad that the world pivoted away because his inventions would have been really rad, guys. Oh my god, it is college drama. That's like the fucking Proto Men. Which, if you don't know, the Proto Men are an experimental, like, prog rock band who are doing a rock opera about the plot of Mega Man.
Yes.
From Proto Man's perspective. Their music is really rad. But, like, their plot stuff is a little grittier, but that's kind of their version is, like, Dr. Wily and Dr. Light are, like, college-level rivals, and they're also fighting over a woman who eventually dies, and then that's, like, the pivot for, like, Dr. Wily goes turbo evil. But yeah, no. I mean, that still is, like, the you know, being a laughingstock at college is about as good as, you know, you're evil just because you wake up one day and you're like, well, my hairline says evil genius, so we're gonna do it. I'm going to help Dr. Light build Cutman, the man with scissors on his head. Cutman, designed for logging. Alrighty. But the next one was, in the episode list, was the Exodus one. Did you get a chance to watch this one, Lucky?
No, I will probably watch it like sometime this weekend.
Alright.
There's still a couple of them I need to watch. I need
Yeah.
to watch the Outer Worlds one and the Exodus one, specifically.
Yeah, I will say, also speaking of, like, what the project is supposed to be about, I feel like the Exodus one is another one of the babies, because that was written by Tim Miller and was produced by Blur.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely was one of the projects that, like, he had a very hand-on in. Good?
I think it's probably also because that the team behind Exodus is made up of, we didn't mention this on there, is made up of BioWare old hats. I mean, like, old hats, like people who worked on Baldur's Gate, Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age, Origins, and Mass Effect.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm pretty sure that Tim Miller is actually probably some friends with some of these dudes. Like, probably.
But yeah, so this one it's good as well. Like, I think this is another one it's got a complete self-contained story. It sets up the setting very well. This one does feel like an extended, like, trailer or presser. I talked about this with Lucky earlier. This is one of, I think, the only ones that has, like, there's a little bit of narration in the Concord one as well, but that one's also basically an extended trailer. But, Exodus has, like, a omniscient third-party narrator who, like, explains setting details to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, does stuff like, and so, because the plot happened, this character left to go chase after the other character, even though you can, like, normally you'd be able to infer that's what's happening. Like, it feels very much like kind of like a guided tour almost.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got a lot of really good things. Like, definitely, I think it did its job, because this made me go like, okay, if this is the aesthetic and the setting of this game, which is, you know, being like, they got like Matthew McConaughey to be like the starring role, and they've got like the writing behind like old school Dragon Age and Mass Effect in here. I'm like, okay, I want to see what you guys can cook. This will probably be interesting, you know. But yeah, like I said, I do kind of feel like I can't put it at my very tippy top, because there are the narration, like I said, kind of it's the opposite of what's up?
Sorry. Do you know what came out 3 days ago?
What did?
The Exodus gameplay trailer, The Traveler's Creed.
Ah.
You know, Tuesday, when Season 2 of Secret Level came out.
Ah, yes. I think I remember now that they did have some trailers that came out. I didn't put 2 and 2 together earlier.
Yes, no, I just, like...
Yeah, there's some timed stuff going on. Like I said, this short was... It feels like it started as part of a labor of love, but I definitely think the final product, like I said, with narration and all, was like, this is going in Exodus's marketing budget. Like, it's a good preview. Like I said, it makes me interested in the final product and the setting. I think the best way to say it is, some people are saying it's like, you know, if the Interstellar type setting was a video game, it's got relativistic light speed travel, so you get time dilation and stuff, which is always really freaky. So I think it's, you know, really interesting to see, and it's got some good actors doing all the voices. And it, like I said, it's got a complete story in it, and it does have some action. There's some flying, but like I said, parts of it I can't remember which. Oh, it was Steve who we were talking about, like, the immersion. Like, the fact that this has, like, that kind of expository narration, like, broke my immersion a little. You know, they had to, they couldn't do show, don't tell. They had to tell me, and I'm like, obviously, yeah, it's a short, so they need to, like, cut corners, but it's one of those things that reminds me, you know, that you're watching, like, a short that is probably for press purposes. I think the shortest short, definitely the one that has me continuing to scratch my head, Spelunky, Tally. Like, this one's, like, I think about 8 minutes of actual runtime, maybe less. with like cutting out like end credits. It's by the same studio that animated the Mega Man one, though, so it like the visuals are very good. And like, I haven't ever played Spelunky, but I've seen people play Spelunky. This does a good job of explaining Spelunky. You die to traps a lot. But this was definitely the one that I was scratching my head like, okay, this isn't bad, but I don't know why we made this. Like, somebody at the crew really must have just thought Spelunky was cool. The part
Someone
that,
had to show. Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. No, go.
I was going to say, the part that blew my mind was reading the credits on Wikipedia. Short story and teleplay by Tamsin Weir.
For those of you who don't know, Tamsin Weir is most known for writing the Locked Tomb
Yes.
series with Gideon the Ninth, Hera the Ninth, and Nona the Ninth.
Which is still being finalized. Was supposed to come out in 2023, but it's looking like it'll be 2025. Cover not final, release date not final. No offense to Weir, her writing is great, and it absolutely needs take all the time you need to let it breathe. You know, you're presumably finishing the whole thing up before moving on to her next trilogy, which has a working title apparently. That's her cyberpunk western novella trilogy. The first one of which is titled "Go Marching In." But I really hope that she hasn't like written out the whole thing of Electo and realized that it needs yet another part split off of it because it's too fucking long. as we previously reviewed with Nona all the way back in that was 2022. Shit. Still better production rate than George R. R. Martin. We'll take our wins where we can get them. But like that book was totally because she like wrote the Act 1 for Electo and was like, there's a lot more to explore here. I have to write a whole other book because if I write this as one book, it's going to be way too long. But yeah, like that completely blew my mind. Like literally just today when I read it back, and I was like, oh. Well, I mean, that makes sense for the way that, like, the snappy dialogue works and stuff, but also, like, huh?
Maybe Tamsin Moore really likes Spelunky. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that, I guess. Like, and it's one of those things where, like, most of the authors who wrote a lot of these are, judging by the way that the credits are laid out, most of the shorts are, like, basically they got a actual in-the-biz, like, speculative, sci-fi or fantasy author to write the short story, and then they got the teleplay adapted, in some cases, they are completely written by one of the staff members. Like, the Mega Man was written, like, just by one Jeff Juhas, who works at Blur. Apparently did some Batman writing. Like I said, Exodus Odyssey was completely written by Tim Miller, but a lot of others were, like for instance, the Crossfire one, they had a guy write a short story and then had it be adapted. Some were written straight up as teleplays. Others were written as several short stories and stuff. So, they got a few things going on, but yeah, that was a weird one. Like I said, other than it just being like, again, similar to Sifu, is just like, hey, we turned our gameplay loop into a semi-narrative short. Woo. Woo. Like, there's not a lot to break down there. And then the last one that I actually watched was the Concord one, Tale of the Implacable. And this one, like I said, I just had to watch just for the morbid curiosity of it. And honestly, I mean, Concord failed on its own failings. It was a $40 game that probably should have been free, and like, they clearly got locked down way too long in the design dungeon and just kept throwing money after it. Like, honestly, if the people like to say that Sony lost, $800 million or whatever, they probably didn't, because they were not paying all of the dev costs of that game. But like, shout out to Sony for looking at this project and being like, no, we're not going to throw good money after bad. This is not going to work. You guys clearly cooked this way too long. But they still came out with the short, and it's like, it's okay. The format is very similar to the first, like, reveal trailer they did, where it's like, you got a crew of space weirdos with different space roles. You got like a heavy, you got a sniper, you got a pilot, you got some disguisey guys, shit like that, They're doing a job, they're gonna bust their captain out who's been captured by the space cops. And they do heist stuff. They had a lot of, really recognizable, voice actors. One of the characters was played by Laura Bailey, for instance, and I immediately recognized her. But yeah, it just kind of exists. They tell a story. There's some character drama. It does have a complete story, and it's supposed to just kind of like set up the setting of why Concord has the game universe has a bunch of space people doing space stuff. Yeah, I guess. Sorry, Legendary in our patron chat has a good opinion. Like, if they'd actually like, because clearly somebody working on Concord had an eye for like maybe not character design. Like a lot of those character designs got really muddled in the design room, too many cooks and all that. But somebody had an eye for character and setting writing. They probably should have not tried to make a hero shooter and probably should have just done a single player game. And I guess they were planning on having character episodes as well. So like, it makes sense. So it's just kind of like ultimately bittersweet because like I watched it and I'm just like, yeah, it's all right. Like I said, some people are like super negative about it, but it's just like, whatever, man. It's not hurting you. They actually had some jokes that I liked. Like I know some people are like, L'Equip, Avengers. I don't know why I'm putting a French humor on weird internet guys. But like at one point they talk about like, man, that getaway pilot we hired better be worth his salt. And they're like, hey, no, we hired the best. You know, he's great. He's fearless. He can do this. Smash cut to the pilot just sitting. He's got headphones on, and it's got one of those like self-help gurus like doing daily affirmations. You're the greatest. You can do this. And I'm just like, okay, you got me. That's a chuckle. That's a keck for me. like yeah, they had comedic beats and stuff, and good writing. Like it's worth watching the short, I think, just to get a feel. But ultimately, like I said, I'm just kind of like, well, that kind of sucks that the Concord's dead, and well, this will probably go nowhere. I guess Sony could try and like revive this, but I don't think they will. Honestly, because I think the well is a little too poisoned. Like people are too used to making fun of Concord for it to be. They're gonna have to wait a while before they can bring that back and people take it seriously. So that means that the ones I haven't watched are Honor of Kings and the one that's called Playtime, but it's PlayStation. Honor of Kings is I mentioned before, that's a Chinese-made MOBA. I have absolutely no interest in it, and it seems like this is another one that, like, from the summary was like, this is just pitching what the game is supposed to be about. There's, like, a living city, and, they, like, send soldiers to fight tactics or whatever, and I'm just like, okay. I may go back and check it out later. I didn't watch PlayStation 1, because even though I'm interested in that, people who watched it or watched reviews and stuff said that, like, it's just kind of like a mishmash of the properties. They just, like, there were a lot of comparisons to Ready Player One, where they're just, like, saying, like, yeah, just some PlayStation guys just, pop up and like, show up for, like, cameos and little nods, and I'm like, this one doesn't seem like it had a strong narrative. Again, I may actually sit down and watch it myself just to see, but it definitely kind of, like, as I was, like, binge watching these all in a row, I was definitely like, that doesn't seem like I need to watch that one. Maybe that's a stealth pilot for a new PlayStation All-Stars. But yeah, overall, I think you said this earlier, but, like, most of these shorts are fine.
Yes.
I would say possibly even a majority of them are good. They're not great. They're not groundbreaking, except for a couple of them. And like I said, there are a handful of them that really stand out. I think I can definitely say that, like, 4 of them are probably what I would call really good, being Unreal, Warhammer, Armored Core, and Mega Man. And like I said, Mega Man and Armored Core don't take the top spot because they are... actually, no, I should say the Exodus one is also really good. So, yeah, like 5 out of 15, 1/3 definitely are your high end. And I would probably say that, like, for me, the best one overall is I would probably lean Unreal over the Exodus one. And that's honestly just because the Unreal one also includes, like, action and like more nods while still getting all their stuff across. The Exodus one does have, like, an action scene, but is mostly, like, montages and exposition and kind of, like, tone setting, which makes sense because it's a new IP. But, like, I will learn more about what the actual game is like watching this gameplay trailer than I did from the short, but still got a very solid, like, emotional through line, and then, there's most of them are just perfectly fine. And as we mentioned at the top, a second season has been greenlit. Sorry, in talking about almost all 15 of these shorts, the raw mission timer is now at about 3.5 hours, and I'm getting a little scratchy throated. Anything else in general about Secret Level you want to bring up, Lucky?
No, I'm excited for a season 2. I will try and get through some of these extra ones, though, at some point.
So we'll see if in future if we have a follow up. In that case, I have a couple of notes and some things we can mention, but I want to ask if you had anything else on the topic list to bring up.
I'm still playing a lot of Gacha. I was actually able to reclaim my old Girls Frontline account.
Nice.
That was pretty rad. It did take me some digging up some receipts from like 2018 and 2020. That was fun. But yeah, I got back the account, and I have no idea what's going on. I forgot that Girls Frontline has like so many systems in it. And they're just adding more. And they also did this little thing that's like, hey, you've been gone this long. This is what you missed. I'm all like, thanks, game. I love it. But, no, nothing else there, really.
Yeah, I think, I mentioned earlier, I'm all caught up on the main story of Girls Frontline 2 and cleared the event story. So, like, we're waiting for the next thing to drop. As some people were predicting, but it was also not everybody was predicting, because the global schedule is a little scrambled. This is actually something I found out, though, that I did want to bring up very briefly, that apparently in the Chinese version, Girls Frontline 2 had a rough launch.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think the campaign went as far, and people actually talked about how, some of the early event stories and character stories were not really good, and, like, actually they were doing, like, after they launched, doing, like rewrites and remastering some of that content.
Oh, really? Jeez.
Yeah, so, like, apparently the story was, like, either bad enough or just not vibing with the audience enough. They decided to revamp and kind of relaunch some stuff. And Sojourners of the Glass Island is, like, generally agreed as, like, the first really good event they put out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Global started with, like, their first, like, good hitter and kind of, like, cut all the rework faff and, like, gave you, I think, the best possible start. But that did mean, apparently, some people were tabulating that did mean that Macchiato's event is next. And so they have already announced she's coming next.
Yeah, I am, internal panic.
Yep. And also, apparently, she's good. Not that mattered to Lucky, but also people are like, hey, she's pretty good. She can do double Overwatch. Or if you go crazy and, like, get all the copies you need, she can, like, quadruple Overwatch. But yeah, so that'll be exciting to keep up and see where they're going with stuff, as they continue to roll out content. But yeah, I've been making sure to log in a decent amount and keep on with that. Also because I was grinding enough collapse pieces to keep rolling for Ulrid, and I got her, so we're good.
Yay!
Now I just need to keep grinding that commander level. So then, the only, like, really big thing, we could talk at length probably about Forever Skies, but I feel like because it's 1 a.m. and I have to edit this and hopefully get it out in a timely fashion, we should restrain ourselves, especially since we will probably talk about Forever Skies while playing it at some point.
Yeah.
So, it's good though. And as Lucky said when he told me about trying out the early access version, the PC version has some quality of life improvements over the demo.
Yes.
So very solid. Go ahead and take a look at it. Especially as we've said before, they will probably be increasing their price level when they leave early access. So if you want to get in and start experimenting now, you should check it out. But I think one of the more interesting things I saw over the past week I wanted to bring up was, first of all, everybody, don't worry. Anime is saved. Dandadan has already been greenlit for a second season. Bad news? Gonna have to wait till July. Which, for those who are more familiar with the manga storylines than several people were kind of arching an eyebrow. And I'm definitely getting the vibe based on where this week's episode ended. I'm assuming we have one more before the core ends. Because literally it ends in the middle of action, but it seems like we're going to be ending the core with the current arc unresolved. We're gonna leave it open-ended. Possibly cliffhanger.
Yes.
Which is an interesting choice. I guess by going in and announcing that it's gonna get a new one in summer is good. There's not a huge wait time, but man, that's gonna be really interesting to see. But in general, Dan is a delight every week.
Mm-hmm.
High quality, animation and character stuff, and just the vibes are immaculate. So yeah, let's see. Well, if you don't have anything outside the stuff I remember to write down, it means we can probably start wrapping.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll take that as a... Sorry, I'm stretching. I'll take that as an okay to wrap. Ugh. Everyone, speak now or forever hold your peace. Ow. Ooh, stretch too much. It's been like 3 hours. Okay, all right. Talk about... I'll have to put that in the show description. Talked about Secret Level for a long time.
Yeah.
Hey, it deserves it. Like I said, just the fact that they made 15 shorts about, like, 15 different properties is, like, already pretty interesting. And at least out of the ones I watched, none of them were, like, embarrassingly bad.
Yeah.
So good for them. Well, as like you said, we'll check out season 2 when it hits. Also, go watch Love, Death, and Robots. It's really good.
Really good.
But yeah, this will be, like I said, probably our last Let's Talk FGO of the year. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you next year. We will still be doing some number of streams. Not exactly sure how many, but there'll be a handful of them in the coming week. Monday should still be good for Halo 2. We'll see if we're doing Fail Betrayal on Christmas Eve. We are probably not streaming Final Fantasy XIV on Christmas Day. I think we're just gonna... I could work that into my schedule. I think we're just gonna take the day off, because most people will probably not be here.
Yeah.
So we'll take a breaksy on there, and like I said, we'll be getting back to you as soon as possible. In the meantime, hey, check out Rain. And I'll probably use the free time generated by the holiday break to keep working on the Lostbelt compilation more. So, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. As I said at the start of the show, feed us a like on YouTube if you're still listening. Leave a comment. Hit a sub. Apparently, YouTube does like and do algorithmic things if you sub while watching a video, so that would be nice. Ring the bell, notifications. Join our channel memberships for badges and emotes. Join our Discord for Discord things, like sleepily reorganizing the topics.
My bad.
It's okay. I said this before. I've sometimes Discord lags, and I just accidentally grabbed a thread while I was trying to do something else and moved it somewhere, and then gone, shit, where was that? That's not where it goes. And also now, the mod team conspiring to rename our VCs funny things. Let's see if anybody notices. They won't notice. So join our Discord. It's cool. And to round it all out, also consider supporting us on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month or approximately $10 a year, which, almost a new year. Perfect time to lock in an annual membership. You can get access to audio early, get all your downloads, and access the Patreon section of our Discord. If it's at higher levels, you can vote in topic polls like Fanservant Friday and the Fail Betrayal poll, which will be what we're doing on Christmas Eve if we do end up doing FP. Like I said, still got to figure out the schedule. And at our highest levels, you can listen to us record Let's Talk FGO live and get a special shout out like these patrons: Adam DeHarp, Black Stogie, Call Me Zed, Carlos, Dragon, JDV9000, Chris Starlight, Legendary Boss Hunter, Liam Kessler, Rise of Kenji, Rogue Robin, Shovel, Some Guy Named Bob, and Varen the Crow. Thank you very so much for support. All of you, not just our patrons, but all of our wonderful listeners and viewers clocking in those hours. I did see a comment on the first Lostbelt 6 compilation where somebody said they had already run it through 3 times.
Damn.
Yeah, damn. Thank you for keeping those YouTube watch numbers up, and we'll be seeing you, like I said, probably in 2025. It's going to be time to update all my metadata tags. Yay. All right. See you, everybody.
Good night.